Today, we have a very special episode of Allcraft. Today, we do the PvP Summit for Shadowlands. This has been something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while. And we did this at the beginning of Legion, or right before BFA. And I think that some positive things really came out of it. Today, we're joined with some of the legends of the PvP community. Some of the people who have been the most outspoken over the years about the changes and the things that they'd want to see in PvP. You know all of their names if you've been watching my stream, because I've watched their videos many times and I played with them as well. We're talking about Stoopzz, we're talking about Savix, and we're talking about Venruki. Rich and I are going to bring them on today. We're going to talk about the state of this game and what Shadowlands can do to make it better.
I should probably do an audio check really quick too, and just make sure everybody sounds good. So everybody say your favorite thing about World of Warcraft, starting with Venruki.
I like how many friends I can make in the game.
Oh,
that's nice. Yeah, how about
that? Warlocks.
Wait, you said I said your favorite thing.
That is my favorite
come
thing.
on.
Destro Warlocks, bro. 100%
Okay.
my favorite thing in the game. Yeah.
All right, I think that everything should be good. We're actually all ready and good to go.
wait, so we know Savix is the right volume? Everybody's kind of the right volume?
I'll
I
probably
can
be
turn
changing that over
myself
time.
up. I can turn myself up. Just let me know.
All right, awesome. Well, let's jump into it, guys. We do this probably once every 2 years, truth be told. We decide to get a giant group together and do a summit about some of the things that are going on. We'll probably do one of these for dungeons a little bit later. We'll probably do one for raids as well. But as you can already tell, based on the group that we've got together here today, we are going, my lighting blows. Based on the group that we have here today, we are going to be talking about PvP, and we're going to be diving in and talking about all of the problems that we currently see and all the things that we actually like, and trying to figure out what we actually do want to see when we jump into the next expansion. And I do want to give a big shout out to Party. We would not be able to do these episodes if it wasn't for Party. And on top of that, they've been supporting us literally the entire time that we've reboot the podcast. And it's really nice to have a partner like that. Without further ado, let's jump into a PvP Summit, which we have not done in a very long time. And like I said, we got Venruki, who's been on the show a bunch of times. I think Venruki's been on the show 6 times now or something like that. I completely pulled that number out of my ass, but
It's been quite a while. Well, Venruki was our first guest on the show whenever we started again on my stream. He was the first guest. I remember it was right after Torghast came out, and it was the first thing that we talked about.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember, I think I've been on the show 3 times.
It's been a while.
So this is 4. Yeah, it's no, for sure.
I might need to take off my hat. I'm just really scared they're going to call me bald.
I can see why.
It's just on your stream, dude. I take the hat off once I start.
Yeah, well, they're primed for it.
Show. Yeah, I wonder why. All right, now, Stoopzz, I believe this is the first time that you've ever actually been on the show. So welcome to the show for the first time ever. We have an esteemed history between Allcraft.
I knew you were gonna fucking do something, dude. I fucking knew it, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my! It's like that thing of super bad. People don't forget. Yeah.
Dude,
That's what I meant about WoW. I said I was gonna put my balls on his forehead or something. I don't know.
My chin.
Oh yeah! Oh my god! I forgot all about that. That was like 2 years ago.
Why did you say that? I don't even remember.
That's so.
I don't know. I mean, I can't think back to where I was at that point, but
I don't know why, but I remember it very clearly. You were talking about solo queue stuff, and we had said something about solo queue. And you were like, Rich Campbell, I'm gonna drag my nuts across.
Dude, okay.
And then I watched a bunch of your videos after that, and I was like, this guy's pretty based. I like him. And then we ended up we played rated Battlegrounds probably a few months after that.
We did. That was fun. Yeah, I think at the time I made a video, and like I swear that was like before Zach started like watching videos. I really thought that he would never watch that video, and then he did watch that video. I woke up the next morning, and then all shit broke loose at the time.
I remember
that was like
it was back in Legion. I remember I watched your fucking video in the Warrior class order hall. I remember that so clearly. And I was like, who is this guy? Who's this guy making videos about me? It was one of my first React videos ever. So
yeah, it was. For sure. I never thought you would see the video. I was like, what the fuck? Like, all right.
All the people that are complaining about like me being constantly in the recommendeds, it's partially your fault.
Yeah, it's probably my fault. Yeah, that's funny.
And then Savix, we were talking a lot about whether or not you had been on the show yet, and we actually have you? We
Yeah,
think
I've
that you
been
have.
on one time. It was with Hodded, Asnan, and you.
Yeah,
It was a long time.
So that
Yeah.
was literally 4 years ago, probably.
Was that 4 years?
Yeah, that was why we couldn't remember. We were like,
What?
has he been on since? Yeah, it was 4 years ago. It was before Classic
Holy
WoW came out,
moly.
and I think it was after the Stoopzz video, and we talked about solo queue.
I think so.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably. I would assume
Yeah.
that was probably the main topic of conversation. I would have assumed.
Yeah, that's actually crazy when you think about it. Like it has been that long, so it
Yeah.
was probably during Legion, before we even knew that Classic was coming out, and we were still talking about solo queue. Which let's actually start in that realm because I feel like that is something that we don't hear as much about anymore.
Yeah.
And it's something that was a big talking point for a very long time. I feel like we've even had developers say some things about.
We did. Holinka actually talked about solo queue,
Yeah.
and we were very close to it actually, and we were so hyped for it. But
And how close
it
are we
didn't
now?
happen.
Not close.
Not even
Not
close. I would want to push for it, but they have so many things they should focus on, like other things. So I don't even know if we should.
Yeah,
I mean, we should, but yeah.
I feel like now, at the time I was pushing for it because Legion felt a lot better than it feels now, and I felt like that would have it was kind I mean, let's be honest, right? But at the time, I felt like that would have been a good implementation in the game, right? It would have been something that I think would have helped the general player base, right? Selfishly, it's great for like if you're a streamer because you could just play all day and just have something to do. You're not like looking for something to do or cues.
I feel like it's
but-
good for everyone.
I don't
Like,
even.
good-
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's,
I
no, it's
don't-
good for everyone, not
everyone.
just the general, but
Yeah.
selfishly as well, right?
Yeah.
But now there's so many other problems that like I
Yeah,
haven't
exactly.
mentioned it in so long because it's like, all right, dude, I'd rather have all of these other things get ironed out before asking for something that realistically probably won't happen this expansion anyway.
Solo queue is always really interesting to me because I mean, you guys have obviously thought about this a lot and probably talked about it a lot, but what kind of implementation would you want to see for a solo queue system? Because whenever I think about it, I always feel like there is like some major problems you would have to overcome.
They would
Before, I just want to say, Venruki, can you turn your mic up a bit? I have you at 200%.
Yes, I can. Hopefully, is that better?
Definitely better.
That's
Yeah.
so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I could pick, like, if there was, let's just say hypothetically, everything in WoW PvP is amazing, and then this is the only thing left on the ballot that would be implemented, I would ask for it in a 6v6 RBG format. Like, that's the format I would want to see it in at first. Personally, I'm not looking at solo queue to be something that's going to be super balanced. I'm not looking at it to be something that's going to, like, be the end-all, be-all for PvP. It's just another option, another game mode, which we're going to talk about later, of trying to fix the downtime in WoW and then in PvP specifically, right? Like that's kind of the issue with WoW is there's so much downtime, especially for the person that doesn't get to like have a buddies list like maybe some other players out there. So I wanted it, if they were going to do it, I'd like to see it in a BG format, not the arena format first, iron that out, and then maybe we could talk about it being done in arena.
I feel like you brought up such a good point though, like to kick things off. It was this weird regression that I think happened from Legion to the current expansion, where in Legion it felt like a lot of things were starting to get to the place that they needed to be. Even if somebody maybe didn't like a system at the beginning of Legion, by the very end it felt like, oh my gosh, wait, this is how this system should have worked. So we start looking at some of these ideas like solo queue, and it's like, if it's ever going to work, it would work now. And then we jump into the next expansion and it felt like it got completely unraveled, and we didn't get back to the spot that we were at the end of Legion, which I think is something that's a little scary. But with that, I feel like PvP, and I'm curious if you guys agree, is the thing that always gets completely put to the wayside. Like you get in this situation where it's like, okay, everything's messed up. Well, we need to fix class balance, and that's with PvE focus. We need to fix dungeons. We need to fix raids, and then PvP is kind of just like the step brother stuck in the corner.
It does kind of feel that way, but I mean, specifically with Shadowlands, it makes sense, right? Like the things that they're going to prioritize are questing and doing dungeons and like the early raid stuff, like arena balance. It feels like if there's anything they can put to the back burner, unfortunately, it would be that, as it is something that's like, I don't know, perfect balance in arena doesn't really matter that much, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, especially early on in the expansion. It matters to me, obviously, but it does make sense that they kind of push it back, unfortunately.
What's the
Well,
fact?
also,
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, like, it feels to me like PvP. It's like if I was gonna look at like what percentage of the game is PvP. If you asked me in Wrath of the Lich King or Burning Crusade, I would say like 40 or 50%. And
Yeah.
I think that every expansion after Mists of Pandaria, especially, kind of lowered that percent. And if I had to say what percentage of the game is PvP now, it's say maybe 10%. I feel like the focus has definitely been shifted away.
It really has.
I mean, I feel like in general, I think the reason why it feels that way. So I've been doing a lot of research looking into stuff to try to figure out like where these ideas kind of come from. And honestly, like if you look at like BFA season, the last season, right? The current, prior to pre-patch was that season 4, right? So if you look at that, the last changes that we really got in the game, right, was February 24th. After that, we saw some changes with like due to corruption, so warlocks not going I think I talked about it in a video where it's like they're running out of hate, they have too much haste, so they would give them better mana. We also saw with like Mistweaver monks and like a small cocoon nerf, I think because of the AWC. But in general, we actually don't get balancing very often at all. So even in PvE, right, like there's some specs that just stay shit for a while.
Like a whole expansion.
No, the whole expansion.
Right,
Yeah.
like
even
even
Logs, Venom Hunter, they just stay dead.
So the thing is that because it becomes more problematic in PvP, because it's okay if like some fire mage in your raid is just blasting the meters. Like, yeah, it doesn't feel that good if you're not the fire mage, but at least he's helping you take down the boss. But it becomes especially problematic in PvP if you're not seeing frequent tuning at all, right? Because PvP needs frequent tuning because it's just unenjoyable gameplay when you're getting shit on the entire time because your class sucks or that comp's really strong and it gets stale. So because we don't get changes at all, PvPers get especially frustrated. So I think in general, we don't get balancing across the board very often, and it just becomes more problematic in PvP.
I think they're always so worried about trying to balance PvP and PvE simultaneously that they're really afraid to make any changes. And you do have some abilities that function differently in PvP than they do in PvE. And you even have Azerite traits that work that way too. But I think as a general sense, it's definitely been something that Blizzard has been worried about. And that's probably one of the reasons why you don't see the changes as much. But it certainly does feel bad if like you're one of the classes that's towards the bottom of the meters or like the bottom of representation, and you just have to try harder, or at least you feel like you have to try harder to get to the same place that, like, let's say a Destro Lock had to in BFA.
Well, look at it this way too. Like, think about, like, look at this group of individuals that we have right now. You literally have somebody who's competed in arena at the highest level. You have people who have competed in rated battlegrounds at an incredibly high level, and then you also have pretty much the entire group also focusing on dueling a lot. Then you also look at a player like Asmon, or a player even like myself, who played a lot of Battlegrounds just for fun as well. Those are all different facets of PvP. And the question is, where do you actually start to focus on the balance? Because I feel like a lot of the things that used to make players want to do what you guys did, which is get more serious about Battlegrounds and actually start to create a stack and just make pre-mades, or stand outside of a city and duel a bunch, or actually go to compete at BlizzCon, a lot of that was because it was genuinely fun to PvP. And what made it fun back in the day, and what made players want to take it to the next level and have fun shitting on other people instead of just doing it casually. Because I feel like it's lost.
I think we also go back into where PvP participation got lower and lower each expansion. It's like, for arena cases, it's really hard for the casual players to get into. First of all, you need to find group, you need to find partners, you need to play the right class, and it's like so hard to get into. That's why me and Stoopzz, we like push for solo queue. So that way anyone can just queue up and play rated. And it's like you need to get into somewhere to learn how to play arena first of all, but you can't even have that right now.
So you feel like there's like such a big gap between like the skill level that you need in like like a random BG versus the skill level you need in arena, that it's very hard to make the transition into like being a casual PvPer into being like a rated PvPer?
I guess you could say it like that, yeah.
Okay. I feel like another reason, sorry, Rich, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to add one thing before I forget, is that I think that one thing that helped people learn to play their classes back in the day was dueling. because you would learn like what your counters were and what the things that you could do were. And I feel like now, because we don't have a shared space for PvPers, like you guys all know, like based off of the expansion, there was like the spot that you would PvP at. And now we don't really have the spot. And whenever you don't have that shared space that PvPers can be part of and do, like that's what I thought the Duelers Guild was going to be, but it just didn't really happen that way. Yeah, it was really disappointing.
I thought Dueler Guild would be like online where you could just queue up for battle and you battle anyone across the realm, but
that would have been crazy.
It was so lame.
I have dreams of going into the Brawlers Guild and standing around a little cage and people queuing up and dueling against each other. Like, that's a dream to me. Like, you get all your cooldowns reset. This small little environment. You could just do that all the time, because you are right. I mean, a lot of the time when people ask me how they can improve at PvP the most, especially if they're just getting into the game, I think it is a large part of it is baby steps, right? Like you learn how your class interacts with one other class, and then you can kind of extrapolate that into 2s and 3s and RBGs. But it's really jarring to try to get into like a 3v3 game right away when you're just starting off and you have no idea.
I actually
possibilities do.
I agree. Like, I think you hit the nail on the head for me. That was exactly what I was thinking. Like, I feel like all three of us, right, have been playing for a really long time, and we got into it through like baby steps, like you said. Like so in BC, the way I found my arena partners was dueling. Like, I'd go out to Duratar, I'd duel. I'm like, oh, this dude's pretty good. You want to be on my arena team, because you had teams back then.
Right.
And then, but before that, it was BGs with my friends. So the introductory systems that got me into the game to keep me where I'm at now, right? How do we keep players playing? Was those introductory systems where I started to learn the game. It wasn't so overwhelming, but now you're kind of expecting players for the most part to hop straight into your arena. And if you put yourself, like really put yourself in the player's shoes, the general, just the average dude who logs on 3 hours a day, it fucking sucks, dude. Like, you go to LFG, you spend maybe an hour, maybe you're lucky because you're playing like a assassination rogue, you get a group, you know.
Most of the time, like, you want to play arena or RBG, you just stare at the LFG for straight 2 hours. You finally find a team, and it's like you guys lose one match and the guy leaves.
He leaves, and then he'll tell you you suck.
Can't even get
he sucks. Chances are he sucks too, and then you're back to LFG again.
Exactly.
Here's a weird question, and
so
I'm pretty
bad.
sure I don't want anyone to say that they're going to rub their genitalia across my face for this one, because I'm pretty sure this is the thing that I brought up that made that comment happen the first time, which I will totally. I'll take that one on the chin, but I got to bring it up right now, and I think a lot of people kind of want to hear this question answered, because you talk about some of the old systems, and the old systems were actually harder to use in some ways, right? Once you actually made that arena group, you were kind of set in it, and sometimes it made more sense to maybe get better. Same thing used to exist in PvE, and this is something that even changed what the share space used to be, because you used to need to wait at some of those shared spaces to find a group. So as you make some things more accessible, it has damaged the game, particularly in PvE. So when you look at something like solo queue, how is it different than LFG? If it was ever implemented in the game, like, how does it not damage the game the way that LFG potentially did in PvE?
I think it just gives an access for everyone to try out and just practice and get good at. And also, like, I think Holinka said he wanted to implement solo queue, but the only thing he was worried about was people being toxic to each other. And every solo game, you're gonna have that, though. Like, it's a problem. They could probably like ban someone for like a week or something, because you know, when you lose a match, you're just gonna blame each other, right?
Yeah,
and that's what they don't want. They don't want anyone to like fire back at each other and like ruin.
But dude, that happens.
That's inevitable.
It is.
Exactly. Have you ever been in a
Legal Legends
pug raid? If you're in a pug raid, just a pug heroic raid, this guy, the guild, you know, the raid leaders in all caps, like, you know, I'm gonna kick you, you suck. Like, it's how it goes. But the problem is, like, at least solo queue, to Rich's point, is like you're at least playing. Right, at least you're playing. LFG is like Tinder. Like, you go on there and you like share your little profile, all of your little experiences. You tell them all your past history, like, and you're just sitting fucking around waiting. Like, you're not doing anything. So much of WoW is like you're literally not doing shit. Like, you're waiting to do something.
Yeah, so we want solo queue to be more like Grinder.
I don't know what Grinder is.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm not sure what that one is, but
it gets people together.
I know what it is, Rich.
Yeah, it gets people together. Let's just say that. And no, I think that'd be great too. Do you think that what would you guys like to see in terms of like community improvements that Blizzard could do to make PvPers, make it easier for PvPers to interact with each other?
Well, I think one thing, I mean, we haven't really talked about it too much, but I think it's a really important thing to discuss is the barrier to entry for PvP. I think one of the reasons why PvP participation is low, and I find it even with myself, even in this pre-patch, for example, I haven't been playing really any alts because getting gear, getting essences, getting Azerite traits,
Yeah.
all these systems you have to catch up on. I mean, this is something we've talked about constantly over and over and over for all aspects of the game, but for PvP in particular, just if you don't have the correct equipment, you basically can't play. Like, you could take the best player in the entire game and put them on like a freshly geared character who doesn't have good essences and stuff like that, and they're not going to do well. And I think that's a big problem. That these systems and these pieces of gear are so important, and these specific trinkets, that if you don't have them, you basically can't participate.
Yeah, you tweeted. I've brought up this tweet, I think, on maybe 2 Allcrafts already at this point, because it was a really important thing in multiple facets of the game, including PvP. You basically tweeted, hey, it's like pre-patch. It's the end of the expansion. Can we just have essences available to every character so we can actually have fun? And I feel like something like an essence library, how do you feel about power gain potentially being unlocked in that way in the future? Because it already seems like we're moving towards that yet again as we get into the next expansion, Ben.
Personally, I love it. I mean, I want to be able to play different characters. I also just think there has to be more like catch-up mechanics. Like, I know they added a little bit, but if you're just returning to the game or just trying to get into it, or you're someone that, you know, watches let's say we're in the last season of Battle for Azeroth, and someone's watching, you know, the AWC, and they're excited. They see their favorite player play Druid, and they're like, oh, I want to play Druid. It's impossible for them to log on, level a character, and catch up with all these systems. Literally, maybe not impossible, but basically impossible. I would never do it, and I don't recommend anyone do it. So I think that in and of itself is a huge problem, and I hope with Shadowlands, with some of the changes they're making with the PvP vendor and the honor vendor, stuff like that will hopefully help. But I don't know. It really depends on how they implement it all, like item level and stuff like that, because it might not end up mattering.
I play WoW a lot, and I'm still not 475 full. Like, before the pre-patch, I still didn't gear out all the way. And it's like, how do I get my gears? Like, you just get RNG 15 chests.
Yeah, you get lucky. That's how you get your gear. That's how it works.
I'm still not full 475.
It's, to me, like, I think that's a huge issue too. And like, if you go back and you look at like back in like Wrath, or like whenever PvP was much more of a big part of the game, I think one of the reasons for that, and it's the same like for PvE to a lesser extent too, is that you had less barriers to entry. Like in 8.3, you had to deal with like your essences, you had to deal with your Azerite, you had to deal with your necklace, you had to deal with your corruptions. And I feel pretty bad because I remember watching Venruki like had this clip on Twitter where he killed a warrior accidentally with an ignite. And I thought to myself, that is awesome. I want to play a mage. But I knew that in order to get to that point, that would take 50 hours. It would take so much, and it wasn't even a fun 50 hours. It was a boring 50 hours, like grinding the same stuff you've already done.
Doing the same thing you've already done.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like it's like a, you know, I know I watched one of, I don't know which episode of all, I think it was one with Hazel. You were talking about how like you get the first 90% of your character in like the first couple of weeks, and the last 10% takes a while. But for PvP, if you're trying to be competitive, you really want that last 10%. So in general, I feel like Blizzard's way of keeping you, it feels this way, right? It honestly feels this way. I'm not saying this is a fact, but it feels this way where they like the way they keep you playing the game is like this really long progression on one character, right? But I feel like a better way to keep players in all other games is like, instead of making it so hard to get to this point, the replayability of alts, I feel like, is equally as fun, right? When you beat a game, like you'll get through it, you get the max gear. Some of the most fun moments are like, all right, I'm done, but I want to try playing the game over with this build or with this class. Exactly. I saw a fire mage, I want to be the fire mage, right? Like, and that's fun in PvP in all forms of, in PvE and everything. You go to raid, it's the same fucking raid. I've been in this raid tier for a year. You think I want to go back in as a warrior again or a hunter again? I want to spice it up, but to get to that point again, it's so punishing.
Well, it's like
so time gated, not punishing, but time gated.
And also on top of that, I think Blizzard needs to understand why people play alts. And if they understand why people play alts, it will help them make the alt experience better, because I do think having alts does extend the enjoyment of a patch, because after you play your main, you can go and play something else instead if you get bored of that, and it extends the amount of time that you're interested in the game. People don't play alts to do visions. People don't play alts to do Eternal Palace over and over and over for the healer essence. Like, nobody's doing this. So the problem is that they have all of these incentives and all of these things that are really fun, but you have to redo them again on your alts. Nobody wants to level up an alt to do dailies again. So people usually want to be able to, like, the fun things about alts is being able to get really cool gear on that alt. And, like, you know, whenever you level up a character back in the day, you knew you could look forward to a level like 41. You'd get, you know, X item or Staff of Jordan or something like that. Well, you don't have that anymore. So now you just kind of have to farm through all these arbitrary systems. And I'd love to see these max level systems. I think that the max level systems are generally okay, especially with catch-up mechanisms later on in the expansion. I would just like to see them be made completely account-wide. And I think that would just generally, like, if they had the corruption stuff be in some way account-wide, the essences be completely account-wide, I really think the game would be in a better state. It would just be a better game.
I agree. I think the current state of Visions, like, it had really, really profound impacts, and not necessarily in a good way on a lot of people's lives. I've heard people literally lost their jobs because of the way that Visions currently work, and I just think that maybe
I've heard of that.
It's literally a job. I swear it is.
Yeah, they gotta change how that system works, right?
Yeah.
I do kind of want to ask, because I feel like one of the things that you see with specs in the past, this is to Asmon's points, and also what you were starting to say, Stoopzz, I feel like having alts, when alts and all of the different specs are balanced up instead of tuned down, I feel like the appeal of playing those different specs is higher, and it prolongs the game for the hardcore players that want to try all these broken things and see what it's like to experience the game through a completely different lens of a different spec, which I feel like doesn't necessarily happen right now. And what you basically brought up, Stoopzz, was the fact that the design feels very Diablo-esque, which is like, hey, we will give the casual player who has complete ADHD and is going to play another game in 10 minutes anyway, we will give them a loot pinata, which will make them want to play the game for a couple hours, and they'll enjoy it. Then the player who's hardcore, you know, we already got him anyway. This person's already sick, so we'll make the grind so long to boost our player numbers, and it's not going to be a good experience. The experience for the hardcore player isn't that good, because we don't really need to give them a good experience, because they're going to keep playing because they're idiots. That's how it feels to me, at least.
I mean, as far as the balancing, there's a few. You talked about a few things. As far as the balancing goes, I mean, just balanced at all, not just buffing classes, just balanced at all. You know, you go months, man, like months and months and months without getting any changes, dude. The last real class changes for this expansion was February 24th. We're in September. We're in October. That's
the weird
crazy.
thing about that, though,
That's
also
crazy,
on
dude.
top of that, is the game was fundamentally different at the end of 8.3 than it was in February, because you had way more corruption. People were playing completely differently at that point because they had access to things that the game was not balanced for whenever they did the last set of balancing changes.
Yeah, I mean, just like the experience, like even for, let's say for PvE, right? We're not even talking about PvP. Let's talk about PvE, because that's, you know, the idea that WoW is all about PvE. It would make it way more fun if every month they buffed some of the worst specs. Just little 5% increments every month. Oh, enhancement sucks, let's buff it 5%. So even in your current raid tier, after you've cleared the raid, so for alt viability, let's say you could make alts. You could just like, oh, dude, enhance is getting a lot of buffs. I want to go test that out in the raid, because you're raiding every week anyway. I want to test that out in Mythic Plus. Even though you've done the content, you can play alts. But imagine if you picked the wrong spec, the wrong class, and you invested all of that fucking time. You're shafted, dude, and you're gonna be salty. So it's not just about like, the current player experience or like the new player experience. It's about maintaining your current product and keeping it refreshing. Obviously for PvP, it's very important, but just making it more fun. You know, every month, there's no reason why we don't hear anything or they don't add little changes. And it creates the narrative, like, who's in charge of this? Is there anyone actually in charge of this? And that's not the narrative that they should want, right? Like, they should be like in touch with us and constantly refreshing the game with just small changes.
You should mention the things, dude. Remember back in WoD or Legion we had like Holinka guest speakers coming
Right,
out talking
yeah.
about PP updates. I loved that.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of people gave them shit, but I
Well, you're
feel like
always-
that
you're
was
always
the
gonna-
right thing for a representative to come out and talk about balancing what they have in future plan. Like throughout, what's our expansion right now? BFA.
Yeah.
We haven't got any
Blocking it out of your
update
mind.
or nobody. Yeah, I'm just I lost track. Like we don't have any representative coming out to tell us what's up or what's going to happen with PvP. It's just like if one spec is OP, it just stays OP the whole 3 months or longer.
I
And it
feel like,
doesn't
yeah,
make
they don't
sense.
really make a whole lot of changes like throughout the patches. As soon as it comes out, then it is what it is. And maybe if
Yeah.
something's like completely broken, they'll fix it. But I don't really think that they do a whole lot. And it just does feel bad if you know that your class is at the bottom and you know that you might have to just ride this out for the next 6 months. Like that's
Yeah.
a terrible feeling.
A lot of it goes to there is balancing though, right? Like if you look, there is a lot of balancing, but where does it go? It all goes towards tentacles are doing too much damage, infinite stars are doing too much damage, corruption, Azurite trait balancing, and you bet your ass that you're gonna see a shitload of balancing, conduits, soul binds,
Oh, God.
legendary.
Yeah.
That's where the balance goes. It's not like there's no balance, but they're so hyper focused on the borrowed power shit, which doesn't even stay.
Well,
Doesn't even stay.
How
Doesn't
big
even
of an impact do you think that conduits and like soul binds and covenants in general are going to play on PvP? Like that, you guys have played it in the beta. Do you feel like every PvPer is going to just be X or Y?
I think it's going to be insane. And I think one of the things we haven't even been able to test is max level conduits. I mean, right now we're testing like the bare minimum conduits, but some of them, specifically for mages, I can talk about are insane. Like you get your blizzard snare up to 90%, and it's feeding you
sounds
fingers
fun.
of frost procs. Like that's gonna be crazy, man. You know, but yeah. Anyways, but like we haven't even had a chance to test a lot of that stuff, and I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how long it's gonna take in Shadowlands to get max level conduits. So maybe it's not really something that's important to test for the beginning of the expansion, but I think these things will end up mattering a lot as the expansion goes on, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, their approach to it has been nerfing the shit out of all of them. This last one, I mean, other than a few, like all of the all of the conduits are getting nerfed by a lot. The actual abilities are getting nerfed because if you just nerf them so much, they don't really matter, right? You could look at the condemn one. That one got obliterated, absolutely obliterated the conduit there. So some of them are getting buffs, but in general, their approach to it, which I don't know if it's a bad thing, but they're nerfing just all of them really.
So I want to ask you a general question right now, kind of across the board. How do you guys actually feel about the conduit system? Because we've talked about it with a lot of PvEers, and we haven't really looked at the PvP perspective nearly as much. Do you guys think that it's a system that has a place in the game? Do you think that it answers any of the problems that are currently in the game? Or do you think it's a little bit of system bloat?
What's that? Say that again. What is it?
The actual conduit system overall. Like, do you think that it's something that's adding to the game or hurting the game? Because I think that there's a lot of talk in PvE around some of the Band-Aid solutions that have come out with it, and whether or not it's just kind of putting a Band-Aid over a giant hole in the hull of the ship, or if the system actually needs to be there at all. And I'm curious how you guys feel on the PvP side.
I personally think it's fun, but we should be able to change it like a talent or PP talent whenever we want to. I don't like how we have to wait such a long time to change it. Cause like, imagine you pick a covenant and you have no idea about the game and you have to like just stay with that covenant for the longest time. Is it 7?
That's
Is it
what's
7
so
days?
crazy to me. No, so they changed it now. Now, I know this might be a surprise, but Blizzard has had to make a subsystem in order to regulate the conduit system. So now you have a subsystem of conduit recharge points that you get every single day, and you can only recharge. Oh no! Oh yeah, this is how it works. So you can only change the conduit so many times per day because Blizzard, like, I'm sorry, but I feel like this is such a red herring that they're trying to catch here. Like, what is this? Like, oh my god, like, wow, these like 3 turbo nerds keep changing their talents between bosses. Oh my god, how will the game ever recover? Like, what about everybody else? Like, what about people that just want to try something different? Like, you always hear the argument for the 1% that want this, but what about the other 99% of the people that just want to play whatever the hell they want? like that don't want to have like unnecessary friction between things. That's how I look at it. It's the same with covenants in general. Like it seems like Blizzard's going to bring covenants out the way they want, but like I want to just be able to use all my abilities. Like that's really what it comes down to. I just want to be able to use them because it's fun to do. It's not a damage thing or a parsing thing. It's just fun. And I feel like conduits are another example of that. But yeah, they now have a subsystem for it.
Yeah, I mean, even for myself, I can't speak to, Stoopzz and Savix, but when I'm on the beta, and then let's say I'm queuing Arena, and I'm playing threes, and I'm a Frost Mage, and you know what? Queues would be going a lot better if I was Arcane. Like, I'm going to switch it up. It's like, oh, well, I can't change my conduits, so I guess that's not going to happen. So just even within just, like, changing your specs and just wanting to change your gameplay, like, if you want to do something different in dungeons versus raiding versus PvP, yeah, it is a huge problem. And it doesn't make much sense to me that they're so restrictive with it. I, for one, would like the ability to just mix it up. And yeah, we've talked about it a lot, but it just feels like it's one of those things that's kind of like a repeat problem. Mm-hmm. We always run into the same issue where there's a system that's really restrictive. We test it out. It almost feels like they do it on purpose, honestly.
I feel like
it feels
there's
like
no
they create a
reason
broken
to put a
system.
restriction to it. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I could see, to be devil's advocate, I could see where if you're switching them all the time, then you then have these stupid 3 talent trees within those, and like that would equal 12 total talent trees. I'm not saying I don't want any power locked behind these things at all.
I mean, it's already existing, so I feel like we should be able to change it anytime we want. Like they're allowing us to change it anyway, but they're just putting a number on it. That makes no sense.
Well, it's unnecessary throttling.
Yeah,
like just let people play the game. Like I feel like this is exactly what happened with BFA, is that you had these things that just made it harder for you to play the game, and especially for alts or like the Azerite. I remember whenever BOD came out, and then you had to refarm necklace levels and islands. Like, why do you like what? Who gains from this? How is this making the game any better? And I just wish that they would look at it from just like more of actually a casual player's perspective. Whenever they go in and they look at one of these systems and they think, well, this is a bunch of bullshit. Like, why do I have to deal with this?
So just to jump in there, because I agree with you full-heartedly, but I think to get a little bit deeper and actually like get to what I think maybe one of the roots is, and I'm curious how you guys feel. Every time that they have a system now, there's something tied to that system, which basically, instead of saying, let the kids play, let them play the game, they go, this is the system and it needs to be played. It's not
let the kids play, it's make the kids play.
Yeah, exactly. I saw that example.
They completely try to lock it so every single thing that is implemented can only be played the way that they envision it in their design. And look, obviously they're the game designers. That's something that they try to do behind the, but they don't let the free-flowing nature that used to exist in World of Warcraft, which created a lot of the fun elements and the individual goal setting. I feel like a lot of the new systems just instantly try to kill that, to be like, hey, all of these bad feelings that Stoopzz, Savix, and Venruki brought up at the beginning of the episode, we're going to make sure that you can't have them. But because of that, you can't play the game this way. We want everybody to smile, and we want everybody to be nice to each other, and we want everybody to feel like they're getting rewarded for every single thing they do, and we're just going to give them the coolest
mandatory fun.
AP. Yeah, it's like, hey, you get one number every time you do one thing, and then with that one number, you get one smile.
Well, now in Shadowlands, we're not going to have AP. We are going to get honor back, and you're going to be able to upgrade your gear. But correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Okay. So, yeah, that's basically where we're at. So correct me if I'm wrong, but is it like Mythic plus 4 gear better than the best honor gear that takes you like 20 hours to farm?
Mythic 2. Yeah, Mythic 2. God. But it's 389 Battlegrounds at a 50% win rate. So I did like, I mean, obviously you could have variables in there, like how you maybe get more honor.
300 and what?
389. So this is so these are the things about it, okay? I feel like number one, the reason why they do that is that when this is tinfoil hat shit, okay?
Yeah.
That I feel like a long time ago, I don't know if you guys remember this, but they didn't like the fact that everyone was just spamming Ashran or like to get like instant gear. So I feel like since then we lost vendors, right? We haven't had vendors since WoD. So then I feel like they're worried that at the beginning, if it was good, 190 gear, it's easy to acquire, it wouldn't take that long. Let's say in the beginning, you could then just spam BGs to get all of your gear really fast. I honestly feel like they're going to nerf that 389 within like a month after the expansion drops, where they don't want people to instantly all be doing BGs. So they're gonna let them do their own natural gearing progression. You're not gonna really be looking at BGs because 389 BGs was like 29
you're saying
hours.
they're gonna work the turbo nerds to death though?
No one's doing it. If you actually consider doing BGs for gearing, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. Who's gonna do that?
If back in the day, I mean, I feel like, you know, you could use BGs to supplement gear that you weren't able to get because it was behind the weekly reset, right? It was good supplemental gear, and then sometimes you would actually look at PvP as a whole, and you would say, I'm not just kind of gap filling here, but if I PvP, there's that one really big chase piece. And I feel like the reward system has just been out of balance for so long, and that's why a lot of people don't PvP, because let's face it, it's an MMORPG. I think there's a good deal of players who want to make their character stronger, and that's why they play the game.
Wait, I see it in this way. If the honor gear is good in PvP and it stays good for a little bit, I think I wouldn't. It's a ridiculous amount of number, but I wouldn't mind 389. But when I was doing World Quest in Shadowland, the World Quest items are better than the 4 max upgrade honor gear, and I was like, why would we do this? This is so dumb.
You get honor gear, but do you really get honor gear? The
stats are
that's
trash.
a problem.
The stats are trash as well. Like they don't have the flexibility that the Conquest gear has.
Oh yeah.
I really do feel like, you know, this is for me a really important one. I really feel like we were talking about barriers to entry, right? Like how do we get people into PvP? But at the end of the day, man, like my experience in Burning Crusade was I would log on and it was always this issue. It's not like it changed. I always didn't have arena queues. Like I would go on, I didn't have arena queues, but then I would go chill in Duratar and work on my duel game. Then maybe I would do some BGs with my friends, or maybe back then professions were important, so that I would go out there and there's world PvP going on, but I wanted to get some ore, I wanted to skip. You see it in Classic too with like the Devil Source stuff, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like the one thing that is repairable, right? We need to, at the end of the day, WoW PvP isn't all about arena. It can be the capstone, it can be the most skill-based thing in the game, but it doesn't have to be everyone's player experience. So we do need more solo PvP content. But I feel like dueling, even if there was a good, you know, Zach, you said that if there was a spot, if
shared
dueling's not
space, like
shared
in front
space,
of
let's say
Ironforge.
Right, but let's say it fucking sucks. You're not going to want to, you know, at the end of the day, if it was fun, people would go to a spot just mutually and meet up.
They didn't go to it because it was fun. Here's why people went to the bridge in Mists of Pandaria. It's because the vendor was right next to the bridge.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, so you just put the vendors next to the place that you want the PvPers to congregate at, and the PvPers are going to go there. It's like bait.
Let me be a little bit of a downer for a second, and you guys can completely disagree with this. I'm playing devil's avocado here, but when you actually get down to brass tacks, one of the things that really did happen back in the day when a lot of us were playing, we would go, holy shit, this is unlike anything I've seen before. Those are real people, and I can see them through the screen. And that was not something we were used to. I don't think the internet existed at the beginning of my life. I remember playing like some games on floppy disks and shit, right? Like all of a sudden the thing was unfolding in front of us. And I do think that people would stand there longer and do absolutely nothing because you didn't have other options. Like it was go outside and have like punch your friends, or sit there and actually see this entire crazy world in front of you where you could hit people with magic. And yeah, you would sit there, and even if there wasn't a reward, you would do it because it was more fun than anything else. You were just getting a bunch of dopamine from the pixels. Do you think that people won't stand in a place as long because now, you know, you can open up Genshin Impact, for example, and you can get a bunch of pixels there, or you can go crank 90s with the boys. That's a great game. We'll talk about that later. Or you can just go crank 90s with the boys and Fork Knife and Poggers, dude. Fork Knife. Like, you can do whatever the heck you want now. You have more options. Do you think people stand in a place for less time now because of how the internet has changed? Do you think that that's one of the things that's actually hurt dueling and PvP in general?
No, I personally don't. And I just want to go back a little bit before I talk about this. But I feel like with PvP gearing in general, the item level, it matters, but maybe it shouldn't. And if you look at old PvP gear, like you'd go and you get your honor gear, one of the reasons why you wanted to obtain that gear was because of PvP set bonuses, PvP specific stats. It wasn't all gear is the exact same, so the only thing that matters is item level. And then you get into this really weird spot where they don't want all their dungeon, like people who are doing dungeons and raids, to go get honor gear really quick, so they have to make the item level kind of bad. But that would kind of be irrelevant if they just added a PvP stat or added PvP specific set bonuses. And to their credit, they did do that with the trinket, but I think they could even go farther with the gear, because I think one of the things that holds people back from wanting to duel, wanting to do Battlegrounds, is having really bad gear for PvP, and it is really difficult to get.
So go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was going to say, another thing that has been really hurtful for PvP in general is how powerful secondary stats are. And I think they actually have changed that. Like, primary stats are a lot more powerful, at least in pre-patch. Yeah, so that's really good, because the way it was is you had to do dungeons, because having versatility and haste on a mage is crit and mastery are basically completely worthless. Like, you might as well not even have them on your gear. You don't even notice when you have them. So if you don't have haste and versatility on your gear, it's going to feel terrible. And that's why I liked one of the things that they've done is they've made intellect and primary stats a lot stronger. But I really just, the item level and the vendors, I think they can work out. It's unfortunate that, the rewards are so bad right now, but I feel like the only way you fix that and kind of address the problems that they have with making honor gear good item level is you have to add a PvP stat.
100%. That's exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah, yes. That's a really good point.
Well, let's be specific. So we're talking about honor gear, right? Not the conquest gear. The conquest gearing system, I would say, is going to be probably, if you're interested in PvPing, is, I would say, easily the best out of all other formats. So if you look at, I want to go back to this other point a little bit, but if you look at the weekly vault, the vault is going to be like some of the, like, it's gonna, I bet you it's too good. I can expect it getting nerfed. So if you look at the vault, right, you do 875 conquest, you get 3 options. That will come from a pool of your conquest gear. If you look at Mythic Plus, you get your 3 options. If you do whatever the fuck it is, like 15 keys, right? So the loot table for Mythic Plus is massive. So it's very likely that you get shit stats, right? Because there's so much loot on there. But if you look at the conquest vendor, because of the change that we got, it's all, for the most part, it's tailored to the stats that you're going to want, right? For cloth, plate, you have 9 out of, or you have 9 options for haste verse. So it's very likely that every time you get your 3 options, it's going to have the stats that you want at a high item level, right? Because it's coming from your weekly vault. So it'll be very easy to gear through your weekly vault for
How
PvP.
does
I think
it scale?
PvPers will be getting faster.
How does the item level scale with conquest gear? Like, what can somebody expect to get with conquest gear going into Shadowlands, and how quickly are they going to gear up with it?
So it's going to be unranked, right? Sub 1400.
Okay.
And then it'll be, what is it? Challenger at 1400. What the fuck is the one at 1600? It's
I think
whatever.
Maybe.
I think Challenger.
No, Rival is 1800. So 1600 is
Combatant is 14.
Combatant.
Yeah, Combatant is
yeah.
1400, and then Challenger, then Rival. Yeah.
Right. But we don't know. The only thing that they haven't been clear on, which is, again, just I would love some monthly updates just to ask these questions, is, am I going to have to rebuy all of my gear when I get to that point? Is it going to naturally upgrade on its own? We have no idea, because imagine if you buy all your gear, the next day you get to 2100.
Do you remember back in Cataclysm, whenever you'd hit 2200 and then you'd have to rebuy all your gear again to make it the elite gear because you'd want to have the cooler armor? Oh my God, I really hope they don't do that. That's going to be so bad.
Yeah. We don't know, because you can't ask them anything. You have no idea. You're just kind of chilling here like a bunch of chickens waiting for them to like throw some feed in the fucking in the barn, like freaking out when you get to
when they make a blue puzzle of PvP, we're like, finally PvP changes.
Well, I do think that you guys are right about like kind of the problem is fundamentally between the way that they have to balance the PvP without a PvP stat. Because if they balance without a PvP stat, they can't really make the honor gear too good because it's too just directly accessible. So they have to make it really bad. And I think that just, it's bad for everybody. Like, why even have it in the game if it's just going to be terrible? And if you're going to have people that grind out BGs for like 8 hours a day, I feel like maybe they should get some decent enough gear for that. Like, is it really going to ruin the game if they're going to do that? Because that's just not really a lot of people's play style anyway. Like, people don't want to do that unless they feel like they should, or they feel like they want to.
Yeah, I want to get back to this one point that I really do think that if you dueling, for a lot of reasons, the reason I feel dueling is bad now is because of all the random, like, you can't really account for a lot of shit like lethal strikes and all these RNG like general procs. I'm not talking about class specific stuff that you kind of figure out. You can't really figure out the dueling meta like you used to. I remember specifically when we did that dueling tournament with Savix, when Savix hosted the dueling tournament, Ven was there. That shit was fun to watch because it was just Azerite traits. it wasn't as crazy as when you add in all of these extra layers of borrowed power. You're just like, you can look at your death log some matches and you're like, I just died the past 5 seconds. I took damage from a bunch of random procs that are like generic.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it hurts the dueling meta, right? It's not.
It's
like,
also
it's not
the
even
stars
like a
align. You have like 6 procs at the same time.
And then if you look at World PvP, I personally feel, it's just my opinion, I'm not saying it's a fact, that it's screwed now because of the sharding, and there's no more professions that are worth anything anymore. There's war mode. I feel like it hurts the game
lag.
personally. The lag, all of that stuff, right? The only one introductory system, so outside of dueling, maybe it's repairable, but I feel like it's going to be hard with the borrowed power. World PvP, I don't know, is the Battlegrounds system. So I really feel like they could give that as a system to fix the barrier to entry, to get people into PvP. We're not trying to get people into Arena. We're trying to get people into PvP. So I really do feel like the best way to do that would be to really incentivize Battlegrounds, not just through gearing, but also through cosmetics. Rich is red. It looks like a tomato.
What's wrong, Rich?
I don't know what's going on.
Sorry. I was just thinking about, the reward system. It builds up a lot of blood.
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
That's what it was.
That's
whatever.
funny.
What happened?
So we're kind of talking about gearing. We're talking about dueling. We're talking about world PvP. All these different things. I'm a person who loves PvP. I don't outside of pre-patch. I don't do Battlegrounds ever. Random Battlegrounds, I don't like them. Dueling, I don't really like them unless it's in Arena. One of the reasons I don't like World PvP, I mean, all these things, the reason why I don't like them is because the gameplay just isn't as fun. And one of the reasons the gameplay isn't as fun is because none of your damage feels permanent. And I think this is something that's actually really important, is pacing in World PvP, how tanky classes are, how much self-healing there is, how it doesn't cost any mana. You can literally just sit there and attack someone for 10 minutes and they're never going to die. They don't use any resources to do so. And for me, I actually disabled war mode because if I run into a tank, it's going to be a 50-minute fight that I can't win. Like, how is that fun for anybody?
I wanted to bring up a tweet that you made, Venruki, because I saw the one that you did about you wanted to see the pacing of PvP be the same as it is in the pre-patch now, because I completely agree with you. Like, it's not fun to fight against most classes, especially tanks in World PvP. It's absolute garbage. And I'd love to see PvP be a little bit faster in World PvP as well. Like, it's insane. So what I would like to see personally is maybe a little bit more of a damage buff on tanks or something like that, because their sustainability in World PvP is just terrible. But like World PvP, I think in general is going to always be bad, because like I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever been questing alongside somebody of the opposite faction and then suddenly another member of that opposite faction comes near them, and then the first person that you're questing alongside with peacefully just gets this sudden burst of courage and starts attacking you with the other person. Yeah, that's basically how World PvP is. It's usually never fair, but it has to at least be fun sometimes. And I think if they could make it more fun, it would be like that other thing that you could get people into PvP with. Like, absolutely.
But it has to also be incentivized, right? Like, I feel like now, to Rich's point earlier, I think you walked away, he was talking about how like times change, right? Like the shit that we were into back then isn't going to be as interesting now. There's so many other things and other options going on. And I always say this example, like how many people do you think, there would be some, would raid in WoW for no rewards? It would be significantly less. Who the fuck's gonna go to a raid with no rewards, right? So if you want to get people to do stuff, I brought it up in that video that I really feel like maybe a revamp to the honor system, where, because right now I'm honor level 300 or something, 350 or something. The next reward is 400, so 50 honor levels, and it's a fucking pet.
It's a little crab. Well, the crab has a crown on it, and I think, does he have a sword too, and a sword and a shield?
I don't know, man. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like if we got some stuff that was worthwhile, then people would go out to do World PvP. But really, why do you do it? I like the bounty system, but what are you getting? Like a few gems that are worth like 30 gold on the auction house. If you incentivize people to do stuff, they're going to do it. But there's no reason to do it, so why would you waste your time?
Ever get buffed throughout the entire expansion?
Well, they always gave aspirant gear, and that was what the problem was. So like, you know, like the drops that you would get inside of the war mode zones, which I actually thought were really cool. Like whenever the supply drops come down and then like you have to fight over them based off of which faction, that was awesome. But the problem is that what are you really fighting over? A blue that probably sucks.
Yeah.
Like it's just not a very good experience. So I feel like, yeah, World PvP, they could do a lot more. And I actually feel like in BFA, they've probably made more strides to make World PvP relevant than any other expansion. You know, we had War Mode in the game. We had the increase, like the little quests that you could do in War Mode that would give you the Quartermaster's tokens, which were terrible, I mean, to be fair. But, you know, it was something. And then on top of that, you'd have a number of other things too with it. And like the supply drops, etc. And you even had like the achievements that you could complete and get all of the honor in the zones. But the reason I think that World PvP isn't going to be that good is exactly what Stoopzz said, is that the rewards are pretty much the same as they were in BGs in terms of kills. And you're just getting way more kills in BGs. So there's never going to be incentive to actually go out and do World PvP, because I think that Blizzard's worried about people exploiting it.
I think you just got to like actually figure out where you can incentivize the PvP, right? Because like Stoopzz and I were talking about, the idea of kind of the state of what people want in games changing, that's just a fact. Back in the day, you would sit there and you would do nothing just because you could play a video game and it was a brand new experience. World of Warcraft came up in that time and it was like the perfect experience. Now the question is, how do you make players do something just for fun? Is that something that you're ever going to be able to do in World of Warcraft again? Or does every single thing need to have a reward which causes your player to get more power? Because I feel like we see less and less people actually focused on the competitive style of the thing. And that makes a lot of sense in World of Warcraft. It's not a native system. You look at a game like Dota, you look at a game like, you look at any MOBA for that part. Solo queue is something that's baked into it, right? The entire point of that game is to beat other players, and the reward itself is getting a higher and higher ranking. That's not something that's as native to World of Warcraft. So how do you cause players to do things just for fun?
Make
is the
it
Dave
fun?
Spanning, would that work though? Because
it's a good start.
I'm not saying that it couldn't, but I'm just saying, do you actually think that that's one of the things you could do? Because back in the day, I did play Battlegrounds for fun, like straight up. I would play random Battlegrounds.
That's because they were fun.
Well, they were new. I think I don't know. I would. They were fun, but I would also argue that it was like Arena it was still new. I feel like that at this point, I really do feel like he's on the money on that. I feel like it's not as exciting. Dude, I remember, bro, like I know this is like, a little maybe biased or whatever, but I remember installing WoW on my friend's computer, sitting in I was level 22. I sat in a 35-minute Warsong Gulch queue and I got in. I couldn't fucking believe I was in a Warsong Gulch. It was the craziest experience. And over time, it was still a newer thing. There's 20 fucking BGs, half of them suck. I feel like in general, that content isn't as fun as it used to. World of Warcraft, in my opinion, is a game where it's fun, but you got to kind of look for the fun. It's not an outright, really fun new age game where you're excited to log on. Every time I play a new game, I'm like, holy shit, dude, this game is so fun.
I kind of
get that with WoW.
There is a part of me that wonders about that a little bit, because I think there is truth to what you're saying, but at the same time, for myself, I don't know about you two, but for myself, I still log on Classic WoW and just duel for no reason. I'll spend gold. Yeah, because the gameplay's fun. In Battle for Azeroth, I've never gone to Durotar and just dueled. It's completely unfun.
I honestly think we go back to what Ben said. I used to love World PvP and Battlegrounds, but because of all the gears and PvP leveling balance, whatever you call it, after they added all those stuff, people just don't die. And I remember talking to Stoopzz about it. If I go to RBG right now, we fight on one node the whole entire match.
Yeah. No one goes out of mana.
Nobody's going, nobody's dying. It's what is this game? But right now in pre-patch, people actually die. So I was queuing Battleground. I was telling Stoopzz how much fun it is. I'm like, people are actually dying and I get to see my numbers going up. And it's can we bring that back? And then also add in maybe transmogs as reward, maybe even a Grand Marshal replica in different colors or something for people to queue Battlegrounds for a reason. I don't know.
A unique title for Battlegrounds. I feel like there's no reason not to.
Too.
I feel like what I'm scared though, this is what I'm honestly scared of, is that I don't think, dude, my approach to the situation is just give it incentive, right? Because I really don't think, dude, that they are gonna how are they gonna? They can't balance the game like that. There's too much random borrowed power shit that they designed for the game in general that doesn't mesh well with PvP. And I can't see a way of them actually making it work.
I think
what
if
are they going
go
to do?
with
What are we
they
going to
have
do in
right
the next?
now,
Is it realistic for us to ask for it and try to get this figured out in 3 months? You think they're really going to nail it?
What about we do this? What about, I mean, we can't do it, but you know how Blizzard enables like PvP leveling and our damage is different in PvP and everything, right? What if they just leave how everything is and then they make PvE players do better in dungeons? So it's like a PvE dungeon scaling. Does that make sense?
Well, they could do that through affixes in Mythic Plus. They actually could do that in a way that would be seamless and actually make it more fun. It's the same as like the ICC buff back in ICC. Like you could do something like that, but I think the fundamental problem with it is that like players now, what Rich said is true. Like players now in general are more goal oriented than they were back in, 2006. And it's definitely true, but I do, just like Venruki, I find myself doing many more duels and many more BGs whenever I know that the fight isn't going to take 14 minutes. Like, this is insane. And it's also especially demoralizing whenever you're fighting against a healer and then you get them all the way down to 50% health and then they heal themselves up to full with an instant cast. Like, it's like...
They don't lose any mana.
Yeah, and there's no mana. There's no loss out of this. So the problem, I think, is that a lot of PvP is balanced around 3v3 arena, and a lot of it's balanced around dampening. And the problem with that is that 3v3 arena is not the mode of PvP that most people interface with. So in order to get to
I take that a step further.
Let's go.
Sorry to jump in the middle, but I actually think that it's a more fundamental problem than that. I think that the reason it's balanced the way it is it goes back to the idea of they want every single thing to play to how they envision it in their design. And I think they're scared of people getting one shot because they're scared that a casual is going to get one shot and be like, this game sucks, I'm playing something else. And I feel like they're so scared of those feels bad moments that they make every moment feel really
feels
neutral.
good.
Yeah, the attrition style of combat that we have in PvP right now just really isn't fun. And it's not like it's this crazy chess game that's that exciting to watch. Yeah, there are a few moments that they'll be exciting, but for the most part, it just feels over-designed.
Dude, it's so boring. It's so boring. I go to every BlizzCon. I sit in the fucking bleacher, the little chairs. I watch every tournament. Like, I used to be the biggest fan. I can tell when Ven's up there, like, they know it's not going to end in the next 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, you can tell in their voice that it's not going to end. And it sucks as a fan because, like, I Legion tournaments, I was like on the edge of my seat. It was super. If you see a jungle gameplay or two melee cleaves going at it, it's a bit more exciting. But when you have this mage lock meta, I get it. Like it takes forever. But in general, the faster gameplay is more exciting to watch. Like by far, just as a viewing standpoint, it's way more exciting to watch. And it sucks, man. It sucks as a fan that I don't even watch the tournaments anymore.
You have to make the tournaments watchable. And I think, like, overall, that's a completely different conversation, right? Like, what is the readability? What is the understandability of the tournaments? Why is there not something that indicates very clearly over a player's head whenever they get interrupted? Like, why are these things not in the game? Who knows? And that's something that Blizzard does need to work on as well. But I think another reason why you don't really see, like, a huge amount of tournament viewership like we used to, even back in Legion, like what Stoopzz said, is because there are less people that are PvPing. Like, in general, you're going to assume that people that are playing a game are going to be more likely to watch a tournament for that game. So if you have less people that are playing PvP, you're going to have a smaller audience of the arena tournaments just organically.
Yeah. I think not only that, but I think it goes back to where we kind of started this conversation with not many balance changes happening, right? Like, I think when World of Warcraft is a game, I mean, as a streamer of World of Warcraft, as a player of World of Warcraft, the game has highs, the game has lows. When the game has highs, it's when changes are coming in, when things get mixed up. And I think when you're watching tournaments where it's the same thing every single time,
you know what's
the
going to happen.
exact same compositions are good, the exact same healers are good. It's very predictable what's going to happen. So tuning in and checking it out maybe isn't as exciting as if a new patch just came out and, oh my god, they just buffed arcane mages. Look at all these mages now playing arcane. Or Holy Priest is now the new healer, not discipline. Let's see how these Holy Priests do. Just like spicing up the game, spicing up the meta, I think is not only really important for watching tournaments, but just playing the game as well. I used to get so excited in Wrath and Burning Crusade when big patches would come in that completely changed my class and other classes as well, and really mixed
trinkets.
up the meta.
And that's another huge conversation that we probably should talk about a bit, is trinkets. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like back in the day, whenever I saw like Berserker's Call coming out, or I'm sure like Venruki, you saw a DFO from ICC, you thought to yourself, oh my God, this is going to be awesome, or Cunning of the Cruel. And these trinkets were incredible. But now we have things like Drestigath, which are arguably kind of a skill-based mechanic. But it feels to me, I think that it was either Stoopzz or Savix, one of you guys made a video about some of the trinkets in Shadowlands, and they are really good.
Really, really good.
Oh, how like
You used a different word, Savix. What was it before? You said
He's
absurd, I
different
think.
Absurd, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
I mean, they're just crazy now. Like they went from being like, hey, you get a bunch of, back in the day, you get some stats like what is it, Deathbringer's Will? You get like some crit, agility, you get like a buff. Now it's like fire, fucking laser beam for in someone's entire health pool. Like it's like I don't understand. Like I get they're fun, but when you're doing rated format where people like get the best rewards in the game, the most prestigious titles in the game, like things that you spend hours and hours and hours trying to acquire, and someone just blasts you for a laser beam and it crits and you're just instantly dead. You're like, that's not fun gameplay. Like no matter, it's fun for the guy that's doing it, but for the other people that he's, and then if you get it earlier than somebody else and then he fires a laser beam and takes out half your HP, or he comes back to life, it's just like,
the thing is, I feel like it's
those trinkets don't get used in PvE either, right? Like those
That's
trinkets,
the best part.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part.
yeah.
you never use
You
it.
don't use it.
You're
You
not-
use
yeah,
the
you're not
passive
using
that you
Drestigath in
get procs on,
PvP.
so you do more PvE
PvE.
damage. But like these items they bring into arena, like the game literally starts and you can go from like 100 to 0 in like 1 second. Like as a rogue, I can pop a shield and use a Skulker's wing, and you just obliterate their health. And it's like, is that really skill,
I've
or
used
is that
the,
just the item carrying you?
I've used the phrase "nobody dies until they get one shot."
Yeah.
That's
So,
basically
I
it.
think I think that's like just talking about all of this, like we're talking about dueling and battlegrounds and pacing. I think all of this comes down to something myself and a lot of top PvPers have been talking for a long time. The problem with the game overall is you have these massive damage spikes like Reaping Flames and Drestigath where you just go 100-0 instantly, or on the beta you're an arcane mage and you stack Ruin of Power, Arcane Power, a trinket that gives you 20% bonus damage with versatility. You have a damage modifier on your arcane missiles that makes your arcane barrage do 600% more damage. So the consistent damage is like, it feels like you're doing nothing, your abilities aren't doing anything, and then you hit that cooldown, you hit that one-shot macro, you hit that trinket, and someone just dies instantaneously. Whereas I think a more enjoyable form of gameplay is, you know what, if you're a warrior, your Mortal Strike hits hard. When you hit Mortal Strike, you feel it,
Whoa.
They're going to be losing health.
You saying that people's abilities should do damage?
Yeah, I'm saying people's abilities should do damage, and the game shouldn't be balanced around 8 cooldowns and damage modifiers stacked on top of each other, and you have to have an answer for that one-shot burst, otherwise you lose instantly, but the rest of the game just feels terrible because you don't do any damage. And it just becomes like this weird gameplay of cooldown trading, and if you don't know
formulaic.
the proper trades... Yeah, and then it makes the gameplay a little bit more boring as well, and also really frustrating for a new player because, I mean, a top-level healer will know, okay, this rogue has Vendetta, I have to save my Ironbark. If I don't save Ironbark for Vendetta, I'm instantly going to lose the game. That's what a top healer knows. Someone who's just starting out, it's like, well, this damage is pretty easy to heal through. Okay, I guess he's getting a little low. I'll use, my Ironbark right now. And then they pop Vendetta and you instantly lose and you can't do anything about it. And you just don't know the proper trades. And I think it just makes the gameplay kind of stale. And I don't know what they can really do about it because I know in dungeons and raids, people love all the modifier stacking. But in PvP, when your normal abilities don't do any damage, and the only way you feel like your character is doing anything significant is with massive overlap of offensive cooldowns. It's really boring.
One reason why Drestigath and the bike are so powerful is because they can effectively occur off of the GCD. So like you can cast the bike, and then by the time that your bike hits them, you can do your next big attack. And Drestigath is an instant attack. And
dress flame, reaping flame.
Yeah, dressed flame. Like you can do that in one GCD. And it's the same as like Anima of Death. Like right now, I think monks have some bug where they can just use Anima of Death. And and they just use that and Drestigath, and they literally just delete somebody 100-0. And it's insane. And I think that actually Blizzard had the right answer for that back in Legion with the Kill Jaden's Burning Wish. I don't know if you guys remember that legendary, but that legendary, it's the same as Dragon's Roar for warriors, where it always crit. And I feel like that's one reason why these trinkets are super overpowered in PvP, is that they might do competitive damage, maybe like good damage whenever they don't crit, where it's not like they're completely broken. But whenever they crit, they're just, somebody's dead. I feel like these trinkets should like always crit. And that way it'll be easier for Blizzard to balance them.
I think that's a really good point.
What scares me, I want to add this if you don't mind. What scares me is what Ben said is like, what that suggestion of changing the gameplay would require WoW to do two things. Number one, change the way the game is played in general, which I feel like is super unlikely. Like I'm all for it. I love that idea, but it just seems unlikely that they're gonna like, all right, let's redesign how all abilities work because of dungeons. Exactly what he said. Like people like, all right, here comes my combustion, time to pop off on the meters, right? I'm Mythic Raid, I get it, but then also, or we go back to like the Legion style, right? Where they had an individual way to like just tweak classes and tweak things because of the templates, which people didn't like because of the progression style of the game, you know? So I don't know if those are the things that are going to get changed this expansion. Like going into the next one, it would require them to say, hey, you know what? Let's change the way the game is played in general, right? The way all of your abilities work. Let's make Frostbolt do more damage. Let's make Fireball do more damage. Let's make Mutilate do more damage, right? Those are the things that would require the whole game to be changed, right? So
that was something
as much as I
said.
want them, as much as I want that, I don't know if those are the things that are going to get changed. But what I really would like to see is at least let it be something where at least make PvP be something for now, right? Like going into Shadowlands, give it some more rewards, give it some more like give it an easier barrier to entry. Let people at least experience it, right? Like don't make it this hard thing to get into and the gameplay isn't that fun and there's not that many rewards outside of Arena.
There's no
like
BOE stuff either that you can buy. Back in the day, you would be able to buy a few BOE items with your honor points and then you could use those and sell them. Like now, I guess you get some things out of the boxes, but the actual reward structure for like winning and everything doesn't really seem like it's very much.
Yeah. That's definitely true. I mean, I ultimately think Rich said earlier, you know, we were talking about rewards and shit, and he was just saying, you know, how do you entice people without outside of player power? I feel like at the end of the day, what do people actually give a shit about? It's the Gladiator mount, the rank 1 titles, the actual cosmetics. You get gear, but I really do feel like as much people might say, oh, I don't really give a shit about cosmetics. What do you remember? Oh, I got those sweet shoulders 2 patches ago. Oh, look at my fucking mount. You know, you flex the mount, you flex the title, you flex the tabard. Look at the tabards.
Well, it's easy to
look at BFA's tabards.
So everybody's gonna
to.
get pissed at me when I say it. You know, one of the things that really killed PvP in a lot of ways, like really hurt it very bad. Transmog. Like I swear, it was one of the things that actually hurt PvP. I think transmog is something that's had a negative impact on the game overall.
Oh, really? Did transmog hurt PvP in Warlords of Draenor Season 1 whenever you could literally get the elite set that made you look like a transformer and they added some of the greatest sets in the entire game as elite sets? All they need to do is make really, really badass transmog sets for PvP and not just recolors of the raid.
Dude.
I agree with that fully too, but I think that one of the slippery slopes that made a lot of this happen was actually transmog. I'm not saying that transmog should be taken out of the game, but basically it's gotten to the point right now where how your character looks, as much as it is a goal with transmog, they just farm player hours off of old content. Right, like back in the day, just look at what's happened since transmog's come out. We don't even get tier sets, like interesting tier sets for specs, even in the raid, and then they're recolors for PvP. Back in the day, you used to get really interesting. Like I remember in Wrath of the Lich King, just that progression of holy shit, my PvP set looks awesome. I remember each tier looking really unique. Yeah. I'm not saying that I understand the fun side of transmog. I do it too. Like I farm transmog and I try to make my characters look cool. I have like my rogue's like a naked pirate, and then my warlock is still wearing the Shah set, and I try to throw random things on. So I got the wings from the set from whatever it's called. I don't remember it like Asmon, but I like how it looks. I'm not denying that it's very fun. Yeah, tier 6 or whatever it is, whatever, and the Legion one or whatever. It's fun, and I do get why it's in the game. But we've seen a slow progression, or like I don't know, like fall with how many sets that we get per tier, and having that as a driving factor to play the game.
Tier set bonuses in PvP was one of the main reasons why you would want to do PvP. Like, I don't know if you guys did like any like super serious PvP at the end of BC, but like I didn't do super serious, but I at least played with people that did, and they were raiding all the time too in Sunwell, and they would go with their 4-piece for PvP and a 4-piece for PvE because you could match both of them if you had all of the Sunwell gear. And the 4-piece for PvP is one of the reasons why you'd need to actually get your PvP gear. And so actually one of the ways that they could make PvP gear more appealing just exclusively for PvP is add back set bonuses for PvP that make you do and take less and more damage from players. That could help, I think, on its own. Because
PvP is going to be, though, like if you look at the actual loot table, it's going to be the best gear for PvP if you want verse. There are not that many verse combinations in PvE. Like you're going to have to do all the shit on the loot table is crit mastery.
Can I ask you guys something? I wanted to say this about the verse, right? I think verse is fucking boring. Like it's boring, and also if verse is the main stat that every PvPer needs to have, like you're effectively taking where you could get haste and mastery, now you have to choose one. And I feel like the customization and the growth of your character and the difference in the way that your character plays is minimized because you're only being able to manage effectively one secondary stat. You can't customize as much.
Yeah. So I think one of the things about versatility a lot of people don't realize, especially, I mean, we saw there was a huge problem with versatility, with the versatility corruption and gemming and just maxing it out.
It was great.
They actually had to nerf it specifically for PvP because it was so absurd. But you ended up, people were getting kidney shot, and with conflict and strife, they were having like an 80% damage reduction, which is just, it's absolutely crazy. And
how much did that bike hit you for? I saw the clip.
Pardon me?
How much did the bike hit you for whenever the monk opened on you in that clip?
I don't remember. I'm not sure. I've been one shot so many times that they all kind of just blur together at this point.
You had full verse, and I remember you posted a clip of you with full verse, and you got stunned, and I'm pretty sure your health went up whenever they used their cooldowns on you.
Yeah, that's what would happen. I mean, there's like a whole meta where you, as a rogue, you would have to use your Drestagath and Reaping Flames before you kidney shot, because if you did it during the kidney shot, they weren't going to take any damage at all. So I think. And to be fair, they have added some stuff, right? They've added like a diminishing return on secondary stats, which is nice. But I think one of the problems a lot of people didn't realize about versatility is people only talk about versatility. First of all, I do agree that it's not that exciting of a stat, but people only talk about, okay, versatility lowers the amount of damage you take. It also increases the amount of damage you do. So there's that trade-off. But there's another part of the equation that nobody talks about. It increases your healing. So you're doing a little bit more damage, but overall people are just taking way less damage from versatility, and everyone's also healing a lot more. And it just plays into that thing I was talking about where everyone is just healing themselves for so much. Your damage feels it feels bad to do damage because a lot of the time it's not permanent. It doesn't feel like you're burning through mana. It doesn't feel like you're burning through cooldowns. Just nothing's happening until dampening. And versatility, the healing bonus from it is another thing that's really, really problematic.
I honestly think this all just goes back to what Asmon said earlier. You know how Blizzard balances everything around 3v3? Like, this is why we're in the state of this PvP right now, and why PvP's been going downhill. Like, when I played WoW at first, it was all for PvP, and I remember there were so many PvP players, but it's like less and less and less, and I feel like it's mainly because of the 3v3 focus that Blizzard's doing. And even in RBG right now, it's just like nobody dies, and
so what do we balance? So what do we balance it around, right? Like I agree. So what do we balance it around?
Mana? I think we should let mana be a thing again. Like casters don't go universal. Like
But then how do you do that with raiding, right? Like you're gonna have like people actually ooming in raids. Like again, goes back to.
I feel like they could have like an overlap,
right? Like, we're just gonna have mages go They even did a change so warlocks weren't going in raid, right? Because all the haste corruptions, they were like, oh shit, they're actually going Let's do something about this.
Well, you're right, so, Stoopzz, and that I think is a challenge because I think that they would do it if they could. I don't know what would work in raids. Like, would you get more mana regen? Would certain PvE sets increase your mana regen by a massive amount? How would that affect melee DPS? Like, you're definitely right that it's a huge concern. And I don't know how
they could add in like pots or food buffs that passively give more mana, or like they could time their potion, like potting. You know how in class you have to min max and use pot on cooldown? Like They could do that in
Like,
retail.
You know,
look at it
they-
this
you know
way,
they-
if there's any real skill management around a resource that you need to do your abilities, that means a bad player won't be casting their spells, which means a bad player is going to be standing there wanding
wait.
like they did back in
I
the
just
day,
thought of it. No, I
and
just
then
thought of
guess
it.
what happens? They quit.
I think we all came to the
reason they got
same
rid of that.
conclusion at the same time.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
They already had the solution already. In Mists of Pandaria, almost every single healer had active mana regeneration that they
Yep.
could use during downtime in fights. And so if you had, let's say, a shaman and you spammed lightning bolt, you would be able to get your mana back and you'd be able to regen the mana during the fight. And you can't really do that in an arena in the same way. And that would give them the opportunity to still have the recovery while at the same time nerfing the overall healing that you can do and not having dampening. And making, sorry, not the healing you can do, but like nerfing the amount of mana that you have.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like in raids or in dungeons, if you're perfectly using your mana recovery utility, Innervate for druids, paladins used to have Divine Plea, and if you weren't using these, you're going to go But if you did use them, your mana regeneration is going to be completely fine. But in PvP, there's actually things you can do to kind of outplay them. Mana Tide Totem drops, you kill it. Now you go Divine Plea goes up, you dispel it. Innervate goes up, you dispel it. And there all of a sudden, there's a little bit more utility that players can kind of work around, outplay each other, and there becomes even more of a meta. And I think that wouldn't break.
Also, we could bring in Life Tap for Warlock and Crystals for Mages and Evocation.
Evocation and Crystals.
I feel like we already had that, and Blizzard just destroyed that. Like when I played the Warlock, I was like, why is my Life Tap gone? And
it's not even one answer.
That was my question.
Yeah,
why
it's like
do you
multiple
think,
things.
though, over time, we go from, you talk about the mop design for healers, okay? That's something that a lot of people in chat are spamming, bring that back. You talk about Warlocks constantly having Life Tap. You talk about Mages playing around to Evocate. You used to actually have resources, and they felt different. They homogenized all classes, started to move them towards the builder-spender style of gameplay, and towards almost like a little bit of like a combo and proc as well. We saw that leak into a lot of different specs, and you moved away from mana. Why do you think they did that? And this is like a genuine question. I don't really have a strong opinion on it right now, but I think it would be helpful to try to extrapolate why some of these changes.
Because downtime isn't fun. I think that's why. It's
Bro,
just
the
that
game,
simple.
the game is all downtime though. That's what like that's what I don't get. Like in a separate example, I feel like WoW is literally a game of downtime, or you do world quests. Like you wait to do something and then you do world quests. So it's funny that like the idea that they don't want people to go like the whole game is literally downtime. Like you just sit around. Like I feel like that's my I know it's off topic, but I feel like that's my experience in the game, is that I'm always just like, fuck man, like what do I do now? Like I'm jumping and logging around. All right, I guess I could just go do some world quests, but yeah, I back to your point, I don't know why they went that way, and I feel like, I don't know, the more I talk about this stuff, the more I think about like, holy shit, dude, like the game has so many fundamental things that would have to change to get to a good place. And yeah, I want one story fast. I queued into, I was playing with Stoopzz the other night. We're like, let's play some BFA Arena. It sounds like a good time. I was like, all right, dude, let's fucking do it. So we played some DH Moonkin and with the Resto Shaman. We queued into double DK. I'm like, all right. And then the enemy Shaman was for 10 minutes. And we couldn't kill anything. He was for, I mana burned him over and over and over again. I'm like, all right, Stoopzz, kill him. He's He's running in circles. Nobody's dying for 10 minutes. You would think that when he runs out of mana, the game is over.
Yeah.
Somehow, with the 70% dampening, Shaman was and then we lost. I have no idea how it was possible, but it's like that shit exists. You can't make it up.
It's because a lot of the I think a big problem is a lot of the kind of emergency buttons and the things that are going to top people off when they're actually truly in danger. You can still cooldown trade, like you can still use Earthen Wall Totem when someone's in trouble. You can still use Vitality Conduit when someone's in trouble. Things like those. They don't actually cost any resources. They just have a cooldown attached to them. Paladins, their Divine Favor. They top people off in 50% dampening with Avenging Wrath. With that doesn't cost any mana. So you have all these insane cooldowns that are just topping people off and keeping people alive. And you can kind of just manage people's life bar as they're low, but once they're in critical range, Vitality Conduit, you're going to be completely fine, and then people run out of damage. So, and that's kind of what happens. But yeah, it's quite remarkable to see that play out over and over, I must say.
Asmon, real quick question. Do you think we should do questions today? Because we are getting to the time when we usually do, or should we just wait until
we can
viewer call-ins to do
continue a few
questions.
more discussions, and then if people want to bring in some questions, we can kind of integrate them. So if you guys want to send in some questions, guys, and like have some topics for us to talk about, we can just integrate that into the conversation. I think that's probably the best option now that we have a lot of people on.
Yeah, I
How do you
think
feel
that's a
about-
really good
okay,
idea.
good.
So
All right.
I'll read through some of them if you actually tweet out those questions and hashtag Allcraft, and we'll kind of integrate them or whatever big word has been used.
Integrate. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that having more active mana regen and having more ways that healers can go and also there's a lot of like passive healing. So like there's things that heal you for a percentage of your health, and those things just go off over and over and over. And then if you can just get away from somebody, you can just heal over time with that ability, right? I mean, things that are really kind of hard to pull off, like Second Wind, and then you also have things that are harder to pull off, things like Ghost Wolf, or sorry, easier to pull off, like Ghost Wolf and other things like that. I think that's what one of the other big issues is that you have these abilities and they just extend the time of play by a huge margin. And what I'm kind of concerned about in Shadowlands is that right now in BFA, our damage is really high because we have essences and Azurite and all of these other abilities. But once we lose all of those things, I'm worried about going back to the same place that we were in BFA where nobody dies.
You actually, that's a good point. We're talking about, I know you guys were talking about scaling, and one thing to note is that this is actually the first time in WoW's history outside of Classic that we've had no PvP like resilience, like any reduction or scaling in the game at all. So in WoD we had, your gear would scale up in PvP, so your gear wasn't so shit.
And it would
You
scale
had
PvE gear
resilience,
down.
right? Or in Legion we had the template system. So this is the first time ever for this little segment where we don't know if the scaling is actually like, is it? We don't even know if it's
I don't
really
think
removed,
I think it was removed entirely because we went over to the beta and we actually tested it at level 60 to see what it was like, to see if maybe maybe it only applies at level 60. It doesn't. They just completely removed it.
It's
glad.
not in BFA. I mean, it's not in
I hope
Shadowlands at
it
all.
stays
No,
that
it's
way.
not at all. I don't
Wow.
like PvP scaling at all. And I feel
Yeah.
like in general, have you guys been doing like more BGs now and like more like PvP stuff now that we have the pre-patch out?
Yeah.
Shadowlands BGs I've been trying out.
Yeah. Well, like
People die on that.
Pre-patch.
I know that people I know
It's
people have
super
asked
fun.
about this. Do you feel like we need like more BGs? Because the last BG that we got was like, what? Like we got the Deepwind Gorge update, and besides that, what Temple of Kotmogu and Mists of Pandaria? It's been a really long time since we've gotten a new BG. Unless you
I would
count
love
Ashran.
more BG, but I feel like they need to add an incentive, like Stoopzz said earlier. Like
Yeah.
we need something to do BG
Yeah, sweeping
for,
shore.
because if they just add BG, like for me personally, I just do arena or duel. Because in BG, what am I gonna get? It just feels like waste of time sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you play with friends, sometimes it's fun, but I'm not gonna do it all the time. But if there's something to do it for, or if I get more honor level doing it, or if I get a transmog doing it, I would for sure do it.
So I want to ask Ven actually. So Ven, would you be interested in, like, I get it, like most of the time this is your experience, I'm assuming, right? Like you'll be streaming, you'll be doing arena, you'll look through your buddy's list, you probably have no queues, and then if you have nothing to do, you'll log off. You'll like, all right guys, I'm gonna end stream because you have nothing to do, right? So if let's say they added something in BGs that was like maybe like maybe it's a seasonal. I like the idea of a seasonal ranking system where you rank up like maybe 14 ranks like Classic, but obviously not as hard, but you could rank up and you'd get like really unique cosmetics like that you would have to earn. Like it would take you a while to earn throughout the season. Maybe there's little objectives or something, like little bounties, or like, I don't know, like other games have these little battle pass style things that Call of
Maybe
Duty
like
where-
prestige, and like if you're
Whatever,
level 20
right?
prestige, you get glove and boots cosmetic.
cool, like maybe a new tabard, a mount, not that, maybe like an enchant. Would you be interested in doing BGs when you have nothing to do for like sick cosmetics, or would it still not be enticing enough to you?
Well, right
No, I
now,
definitely would.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I honestly I forgot even that he asked you the question and not me.
Go ahead.
Okay, you can answer too. Yeah, your pick's good.
Well, go ahead, Venruki.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, I absolutely would. 100%. I think one of the reasons why I got kind of turned off RBGs in general is because it didn't feel like there was any reason to do them. Right? Like there's
Nothing.
all the rewards I can get in RBGs, I can get from just doing arena. So why bother doing?
You know what's
doing them?
crazy?
And-
I thought for the longest time we get mounts from doing RBG, but RBG you don't even get mount. Like
You don't get
You know how
anything.
glad
Dude,
it
you
is
get the same
something?
title too.
You get the
You
same
don't
title. I think that's
You
another
don't
thing
get
that's really.
anything for RBG.
Well, you do. You get a title that I've already
Yeah,
earned 20 times. You know, like
And then the RBG community is like smaller and smaller and smaller now. There's like
I've
two
heard-
people queuing.
I've heard that on Horde or on Alliance, I forgot which one, in the last season of BFA, there weren't even enough hero slots to get a full team hero of the Alliance.
oh, I believe that. It's actually kind of sad, to be honest, because I mean, I posted
back in
a-
the day.
I posted a screenshot of my rating at the end of the season. I was like, oh
Yeah.
look, I got high rated in threes. Here it is. And then someone's like, oh, I'm glad you had a couple games in 10 versus 10, and I was like 192 rating, like literally the
One win.
entire season.
That's one win.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane, and like the sad thing about it is like back in the day in Cataclysm, I did RBGs all the time. I loved RBGs, and now I feel like they just have like almost no value. And I don't really know why I did them a lot back then. I think it's because they were probably just like easier to gain rating in overall, and because they were easier to gain rating in, and you could get the 2200 gear more easily in RBGs, it made you more willing to do them. But right now, like, there's no real unique rewards from RBGs. They have a lot of Azurite that you get from them, but nobody cares
There's like
about that.
3 teams too. Like, like
Yeah.
you'll queue up, you'll win one game. You're like, all right, dude, we're like 8, whatever. Let's do like 2K, and then you'll play one more game, and then the next team ahead of you is like 2600.
Yeah.
There's like 3 teams queuing. Legitimately, I'm not exaggerating. I think there's like 3 teams. You'll spend the whole day trying to like get a
tried to
group
make-
going, and then
Yeah.
You know
I tried
what's
to actually
crazy though?
make-
Like, oops. I think everything could be solved with the mana issue that we just went over today. Like, bring back life tab, bring back mana gem, make healers go and I feel like the game would have an ending point. Even in RBG, like, people can actually die then.
Yeah.
Actually, healing could just probably be reduced overall. I'm going to be honest. The last season of Battle for Azeroth, 2v2 was my favorite. And you want to know why 2v2 is my favorite? Because it starts in dampening.
Yeah,
Literally,
true.
the reason why I like
20%.
2v2
Me too.
is
Me too.
because healing is lower and it feels like
Yeah.
you do something with your damage. It was way more fun than threes, in my opinion.
That was actually a thing too in threes. I was like, why do we start with 0 dampening? Like, nothing dies for 10 minutes. I have to do like 5 setups to get close to finishing a match.
It's
Well, you
like
guys
whenever you
remember
get
in
bored
Legion-
inside of the match, it's a problem.
Do you remember in Legion where they said that they were going to do? It was really, you have to have maybe like a specific memory for this, but they were going to nerf all healing in Arena, I believe, by 20%. And they took this back. This was at the very start of Legion, where there was this blue post note where they
remember.
came out and they were going to nerf all healing in Arena by 20%, and I think damage as well. Like, they were going to tone everything down. And I remember as a healer, I was like, what the fuck? This is a crazy change. And then they just like didn't do it. But I remember at the beginning, like, I could probably go back and find it. They were going to nerf like healing across the board in Arena, and then they never ended up doing it. But I feel like that could be a really easy, like, I'm looking for easy
100%,
fixes. Like,
yeah.
what can we get going in Shadowlands to make it better?
You're like me now, where you don't talk about like the overall things. You're like, okay, what's realistic that's gonna actually
Yeah,
happen?
that's all me
Like,
now, dude.
yeah.
What
Yeah.
can we actually see? Because I love talking about, like, dude, the game could be this great, but I know what's up, dude. Like, it's gonna take, I don't know, it's not gonna happen. So let's get some
You're a broken
realistic
man.
stuff. Yeah.
No, but I think that's one of the things. Like, I really think a lot of these issues. First of all, we talked about it. Gearing, there has to be a reason to want to gear and do these things, and a gear reward is really, really important. The only time, what are they called? Island expeditions. What was the other one? War
Warfront?
campaign.
Battlefront.
Yeah, Warfront. The only reason I did either one of those contents, I would never ever. There was never a point where I would log on and say, you know what, I'm going to do a Warfront. That sounds really fun. Ever. It's the. No offense, it was the most boring thing I've ever done in my entire life. It felt like I
Why
was
did
like
they- why
watching
did
a
they
really
make
boring
it-
movie.
I thought it would be PvP, but it wasn't even PvP.
That's what I thought
yeah.
it was going to be too. Like, I thought it was going to be like, back in Warcraft 3, where you had the hero units. I thought the players were going to be the hero units on each team. Except the problem is that there were no hero units on the other team. It was just NPCs. Like, Warfronts could have been so fun. I felt like whenever they announced BFA, Warfronts were the main feature that I was the most excited about. Which is really what's kind of sad about it, is that I remember whenever we finally had them come out on the beta for BFA, and I did one, and I got bored halfway through the first Warfront that I ever did. I'm like, this sucks.
Dude, a
Yeah.
Warfront is an epic BG versus bots. That's what a Warfront is.
Yeah.
It's literally like
Why?
it's like Alteric Valley versus
And
bots.
it's also it's an epic BG versus bots that it's almost impossible to lose. Like your whole team has to be AFK to lose it. So like I said, it's like watching a really boring movie. Like you're just
so boring.
My point was the only reason I did that content, they actually got me to do Warfronts and Island Expeditions because they rewarded it. I mean, imagine if there was rewards in BGs. Like that would be crazy.
Yeah. Imagine that.
But that's the problem, though, is still, like, you can add the reward, and this is why the balance is so important. You can add the reward, it's still not going to make the game good. It's just going to have the really sick individuals who, for some reason, still want to run on the treadmill. It'll have them log in and spend a portion of their time that they're playing the game doing that. When you look at a game that's actually fun, and it has some of those moments baked in that are fun and incentivized, that's when all of the sudden you sit in the game and all of a sudden you're herbing for no reason. You're just flying around in circles and you're happy that you're there because you want to be in the world. I mean, there's a game that I've been playing right now recently, and pretty much any time, like, I like the combat a lot. The game is somewhat gated, but I'll find myself sitting on it.
What's it gated by, Rich?
Is it the anime game?
Is it gated by money?
It doesn't matter. No, it's not gated by money. It's not just gated by money. Like, it actually, like, okay, look, you can be super reductive right now, and you can make it a joke about, yes, I spent a lot of money on the game. Yeah, my life's awesome. Like, I love my life. I enjoy this game, and like it's fine. That's not the point.
What's the game?
The game is it's called Genshin Impact. All right, it doesn't even matter what the game is actually called. It does not matter what the game is actually called. Everybody, shut up. Basically, the game has a really good combat system. The combat is, like, getting to participate in the combat system on the highest level. Some of it is gated. Like, some of the dungeons are actually gated by a resource, which I actually think is one of the weaker things about the game. But still, I log on because I look forward to doing that content each day. And there are actually, like, weekly resets as well. And when I'm not doing it, because the game does have those elements that are fun, I find myself just killing time in the environment and running around in circles while I'm doing other things. Like, let's say I'm on a call for OTK. I'm running around picking up palomino mushrooms off of buildings because I'm like, yeah, I might use them one day, because I care about the game. I got invested because it was fun, and then I participate in the other activities that might give me a reward later or might not, just because I enjoy the environment and I care about the game. I'm invested in the game. World of Warcraft used to have that, and you know what some of the things that people would do just because it might give them a reward later or because they're having fun just trying to kill time? It was PvP, and I feel like that's the big thing that's missing right now.
That hurts my heart, because that's how I used to talk about WoW to all my friends. But now
Devil's
it's like,
avocado, yeah.
I cannot recommend WoW to, like, my IRL friends anymore. It's too grindy. It's like a job. I need the corruption, masks, visions.
No.
Mythic 15 key raid. It's like I cannot recommend my friends to play it.
It's like so right now I've been playing my warrior a lot. So you saw my tweet, Asmon, but like I've been playing my warrior a lot. I'm having so much fun on it. I logged on. I was level 40. I hadn't played my warrior one time since Warlords of Draenor. I logged on. I had all my full BIS WAD gear, and I've just been queuing BGs. I'm up to like level 43, but it's actually so enjoyable. I charge in and I do some buttons and people die, and it's great. But I know when I hit level 49, I'm going to stop playing. I don't want to get 50. I'm never getting max level, because there is 0% chance I'm going to get Azurite. I'm going to get essences.
Whenever you do, warriors are going to suck then. So they're not that good. So you're going to spend all that time for nothing.
Dude, warriors,
I think warriors are pretty good, man.
Warriors are insane, bro. You better not reroll. You better.
I feel like warriors are low key the best class in the game.
Have you seen the Avatar Slam?
Yeah. I'm changing.
Actually, okay, all right.
Yeah,
I have
Stoopzz
3x.
warrior.
Yeah, I do have
I'm jumping on the bandwagon. I'm all aboard.
Okay. I guess I'm talking about PvE. I've leveled up at Hunter, and my Hunter is now out damaging my warrior. And I'm very sad about it.
That's another thing. We didn't even get to talk about this at all, but Shadowlands, there is so, like, we want to talk about things they've done well in Shadowlands. Some of the redesigns they've done, I mean, Warrior is one of them. Shadow Priest is another one. Like, you see the changes they make, and you're like, wow, they really get it. Like, this is amazing. I can't believe, like, all these positive changes. Everything's great. They're so much fun to play. And then I log on my Frost Mage, and it's the exact same as it was in BFA, and it's the exact same as it was in Legion with no changes at all. And I'm just like, oh, I want to be that excited about my, a new spec and a new expansion. It looks so awesome, but there's so many specs that just don't get touched at all. And I don't know if it's a lack of time or what, but man, I wish that I was getting that gold standard treatment like priest.
That
and
is the
warriors
issue.
were.
I wish they do like a monthly update for classes, and they don't just leave that class in the dumpster throughout the whole expansion.
Well, Stoopzz put out an amazing tweet, and it's exactly how I felt. And to Rich's point about making the game more fun, just like it being more fun to play, and then to your point with the warrior, for example, if every class, this is what Stoopzz said, and I totally agree, if every class got the Shadow Priest treatment, WoW would be fun as shit, dude. If every class got that, then 90% of the patch notes on the beta are Shadow Priest changes. So if every class got that type of that level of like redesign, like it would be so much more fun. But when the focus goes towards the borrowed power, and that makes it so that they don't focus on the classes, and some classes just feel so bad. Like they feel so gut. Like Frost Mage, for example, maybe it's fun, but when I look at the damage meters and I see Ice Lance 90% of your damage, it can't be that fun just to like
I think that's the
press that
important
one
thing
button
about,
to do damage.
About WoW. Instead of like focusing and trying to balance the Covenant, of course that's important, and the trinket stuff, they should focus on the class design and making the class fun and our abilities being fun rather than trying to make us play into the Covenants or getting the trinket. I feel like that's ridiculous.
It's like being designed backwards.
I wish I could nod my head more than this.
Yeah, I want the class to be fun and good, not us getting the trinket making it fun. Like it shouldn't be like that.
The trinket, the soulbind, the conduit, like I hope next expansion, man, I'm sounds so shitty because I know it's 2 years away. We haven't got to this one, but I really just want it to go like, dude, imagine the box. Like you could make whatever the next expansion is, like on the thing, you could just say no bullshit. Like just go back to like just like that would be an advertisement in itself. Like it'd be so old that it would be new. None of the stuff we're doubling down on the classes, extra raids, more dungeons, more PvP focused changes. We're doing regular balancing every month. That would bang. So that would be the game.
No Warfronts, no island expeditions.
I don't want that. As a player, I swear, dude, it's like everyone here, it's so frustrating because we're all looking for a good game. We all want to play a good game. And I feel like WoW has the potential to be the good game. But it's like, the thing is, it's like you have that friend who like, they have this vision. You have that friend who's like telling you these grand ideas and he's like telling you this project he has and he's like explaining it. And it's like at BlizzCon, it sounds like a great idea. But when I play the game, it's like, bro, this ain't it. Like, this is not what you told me it's going to be. And in reality, it's like, I'm getting bamboozled.
I also want Blizzard, or like if any WoW devs watching, the only reason why we complain is because we played this game throughout our whole childhood and we love this game so much. Like we wanted it to be better. That's why we like throw feedback and maybe might say stuff about it. But it's because we really like the game. I love this game.
We want it to be good for like the kids that were like our age when we started playing the game today. It's like the 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, whatever for today. I want to get them addicted to the game too. Yeah. And it's like that's okay. That's the goal. For at least
I want my kids to play WoW.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're far away, right? Who knows when? Yeah.
I think that's a really good, like what you said, like just stop focusing on all the secondary systems. I mean, that's probably not going to happen in Shadowlands. Maybe the next expansion after that. I wish so too. I really wish with all my heart. The three things I play Arcane Mage, Fire Mage, Frost Mage, pretty much all the exact same. Arcane and got a little bit of love, so kudos to that. But Windwalker Monk, basically the exact same. Windwalker Monk actually the exact same. Like you actually literally got nothing. You got a few talents that you already had as baseline abilities, and that feels pretty good. But I don't have a single new keybind, not one. It's the exact same class. And then when I see warriors, it's so much mass spell,
intervene,
juggernaut, piercing house, shattering throw, everything. They're just literally, it's like great. They got everything they've ever wanted back, and it's like, oh my god, why can't I have that? Like this is crazy. And I feel like if everyone did have that, if everyone had that, it would be so fun. I would be so excited. But without the covenants and stuff like that, without the legendaries, the classes are the same since for mage. It's the same since Legion, pretty much. I mean,
the class is your vehicle to the expansion. That's how you view the game. Like that's what makes. Yeah, that's what makes the game, the world, even like the boring content can be more fun if your class feels good. but because of every time they have to focus on something that's not even going to stay. Like, we're not going to keep covenants. We're not going to keep soulbinds.
Yeah, they're spending all this time like micromanaging these little stupid systems that they're going to get rid of by the end of the expansion. And then they're like, yeah, oh man, guys, we didn't have time to fix the classes. We were too busy trying to figure out how to release conduits. What do you mean?
Well, just to bounce off of that too, like if the experiences, not only it's not just one way that you look at the game, right? Like that's the whole thing. For the hardcore players that want to be playing the game a lot, you have almost a completely different feeling game if you're playing it on good specs, right? And you actually have an alt, and then you go, okay, I've already experienced it as a hunter. I loved it. Now I'm a tank. It could feel like a whole new game. And I think that was, for me at least, when I played in BC, when I played in Wrath of the Lich King, when I played in Vanilla the first time around, I was way too stupid to even know what was going on. It was just like all like, just like drooling, like, look at the colors, look, there are yetis in the cave. Like it was wild. I was running around in circles every day. Oh yeah, dude, I remember like playing all day and then running into the other room where like my parents were and just being like, you won't believe the thing I saw today, I was in Teleduthil, and like just talking about doing it. Took me like a full year to do the water form quest for Druid. Like it took me years to get like that one quest chain done. Like I was so stupid and I loved every single second of it. And but by the time I got to BC and the time I got to Wrath of the Lich King, I couldn't stop playing because the game felt so different to do the same raid on a different spec. It felt like I was playing like a whole new game, and I wanted to know how every piece of this giant puzzle, out of this giant universe actually worked. And it felt so good anytime I got to get just like a little bit deeper into World of Warcraft. And if that came back, and that's one of the reasons why I think Stoopzz' idea is so cool, because right now, so much of the focus, like you guys are all saying, is on these systems and trying to make that experience happen with the systems. That makes it so the game can't change as dynamically because you're investing into this one piece. If you now change the balance of one of these pieces, you just wasted your time on a useless piece of loot, and now you need to get the other one, and you feel like you've made a mistake as a player instead of having these big shifts that actually happen, right? And all of a sudden you're playing your spec in a different way, and it feels refreshed. I mean, look back in the day, I think one of the things that really did do that was tier sets, right? All of a sudden you would use an ability that maybe you hadn't used before because it would give you some advantage in PvP, it would give you some advantage in the raid, and it would constantly every tier refresh how you approached your spec. Yep. So I think Stoopz's idea is touching on that and actually building on that, which was one of the core fundamental things about the game that was so fantastic in the past.
Well, keeping it fresh is like definitely true. Like I know, for example, like whenever you had the tier sets, you knew that you'd be playing maybe a different spec, you'd be playing a different class basically. But for Arms Warriors, for example, in PvE, Test of Might has been the best Azerite trait for the whole expansion. And at least, like, I'm pretty sure almost the whole expansion. I know the first and the last tier was the best one. And many of the other traits have been the best for pretty much the entire time. So the way that your class played throughout BFA has been relatively similar in a way that it wasn't before, because you'd change your class and you'd change your spec based around tier sets.
Yeah. Well, just to bounce off of one thing that changed too, that I think is important to think about, and I remember talking to Venruki about this because we actually used to work at the same place, and we were talking about it at work. We were talking about some of the things with corruptions, and I know like you and Zico had went and gotten like a shitload of a certain corruption, and then there was a change. And I remember Asmon as well. We talked about it because you, I think you bought an item or you didn't buy an item that had a certain corruption on it, and players invested so much on the certain corruptions, and then they just got changed, and it was like, wait, I put all my time into getting this, and now I can't get another one. Well, I put all of my gold into this, and I can't get another one. Some people actually spent real money, like me.
Yeah, that's
I think I spent like $200. Yeah, everybody's making fun of me for Genshin Impact. That game doesn't shit in my mouth after I spend money on it, at least. But the thing is like I spent a bunch of money on this one corruption, and then the next day they changed it, and I never used it. I actually think I spent $200 in WoW tokens on it. It felt awful.
Dude, I remember, so I bought a shield with tier 3 Twilight Devastation, and I bought it for 600,000 gold. In literally 5 minutes, they came out with a patch notes saying that they were nerfing Twilight Devastation within 5 minutes of me making the purchase. Then on top of that, somebody else was trying to sell me a pair of Gushing Wounds gloves, and I thought to myself, oh, there's no way. And I remember buying the shield, and I thought to myself, actually, you know what? I'm going to hold off. I'm not going to buy these gloves yet because what if they do add a corruption vendor in?
And then I bought it. Oh my god.
You bought it from the Paladin?
Yeah, my chat's reminding me. Yeah, you didn't buy it, and then I bought it.
Yeah, and then the next day
everybody came. You hosted me that day, and everybody came over from your chat, and it's like, yo, it's a great deal. It's a great deal. You should get it. And then I bought it.
Yeah, and the next week they added the corruption vendor. Rich, do you want to do a few questions?
Yeah, I'll take a peek.
Okay, that sounds good.
Like,
It was a really, really great time. So how many of you guys, how many people do you think are probably just going to be like one covenant for PvP? Like, let's say you're a fire mage or whatever. Like, how many fire mages are going to be, you know, like, what's going to be the breakdown percentage-wise?
What, for each specific covenant, you mean?
Yeah, basically.
What spec are you playing? Because I know for hunters it's different. For a lot of you
well,
have
like
it's
for
a
each
nightmare.
class.
I'm of the, like, believe it or not,
Okay.
and you know, you might make fun of me for this, but I'm considering picking the covenant that's going to be the most fun. Like, I'm actually, because I think they're actually going to get changed up so much, and they are going to be wildly imbalanced and constantly tuned. I've just decided the safety net for me is to pick the one that I enjoy the most. So I'm probably just going to go Night Fae. I don't even know how good it is. I haven't really looked into it, but Night Fae looks fun to me. That's the one I'm going to go with on Mage.
Wow, you're encouraging that, dude.
Even though I know it's worse. I know it's worse. I am intentionally picking something that's worse, but I think something that would really hurt my soul is if I pick something like Venthyr that I don't, you know, it's the best for sure. It's the best, no question about it. But if I picked it and then it got nerfed, that would be heartbreaking because then it's not the one I want and it's also bad. So then where does that leave me?
Yeah, you're stuck.
Yif, brother.
Not in a good spot.
Yif. I'll see you at the Night Fae hangout, dude.
Yeah,
I'll see you at the conventions. Heck yeah, dude. Oh, that's nice. I'm stoked about that. So this question seems like a joke, but I actually think that there is something to talk about with this. And the question is, why do you want to fix WoW? Just play mobile games. ... Don't you guys have phones? Now, obviously, that seems like it's just like a complete joke. But I actually do think it's a funny thing to look at right now when you do think about where some of the resources are being put into the game. When you do look at the flow of these table missions, it does seem like they're trying to get some sort of mobile integration to keep people in the loop of gameplay and keep people thinking about the game even when they're not at the computer. I know that this sounds really ridiculous, but I do think it's an important thing to think about because when you look at a lot of the really popular games, they've been able to have some sort of cross-platform at the very least, even if there's like a mobile companion to some degree. Do you think that is something that they're trying to achieve with these table missions, which are basically a scuffed auto battler?
This might be an unpopular opinion, but I hope so. I actually hope that WoW has some mobile integration to small features that don't actually affect the game. I don't want to see mobile BGs, but why don't we have a mobile app for doing pet battles? Why don't we have a mobile app for doing the auto battler? That's completely fine. And I think that you could take these little small mini systems in the game and then give people a way to interface with them on their phone, and everybody wins. There's literally no negative to that.
There was actually a WoW app where you could like log in and look at your character and do the
and that's awesome.
It was the armory.
Legion,
it was
right?
like the companion.
It was in
armory,
Legion.
right?
You could send your people to do work.
Yeah.
Do you
You
remember
actually
that?
level that way.
I actually liked that. That was
Sid. So
Stuopzz actually leveled every character in the game with a companion app.
Oh my god.
He leveled to max level every single one of his alts just using the companion app. Like we'd be sitting there casting, and I would be watching him like put his bodies on missions.
No.
I was like, wait, what the heck is going on?
I think he's the only one in the whole world that did that.
Yeah, dude. And he was telling me about it, and I was like, there's no way this works. And then I started doing it, and yeah, you could actually level your characters up.
That is
way.
crazy.
It's insane. I had no idea you could even do that. Yeah.
Yeah, people are saying that they did it in the chat as well. But I actually think that having a cool little mobile thing is fun. And it also keeps you in the flow of the game, even if it's somewhat unrelated to the game overall. Like, imagine if they actually had a good auto battler. I mean, auto battlers, I feel like, do people still play TFT? I know that Underlords died and all that stuff.
I love TFT.
It's a good game. Like, it
I'm
really
a
is a good
boomer,
game.
dude. I'm getting older. Like, I like games where I don't have to, like, I could just think and I don't need reaction speed anymore. Like, I enjoy those Hearthstone, like, slow-paced games.
Yeah.
I do like TFT.
I actually liked Underlords before they added the Underlords themselves. I didn't like those units. I didn't get as into TFT, but it was a really popular genre for a while. And when I saw those quests start to come up, it was like, oh, are they going to jump on? I would love to play one of those games that was WoW themed, like, because that's one of the sad things about Blizzard. And I understand why it is this way. It is such a big company, and they used to be so focused on polish. I feel like less so now, that you would never get like that rush of like oh shit, there's a new hype genre, we're getting a Blizzard version of it. I really like the Dota universe, so that was why I played Underlords instead of TFT. If I had a WoW version of a game like that, I would have played the shit out of it, and I feel like it is a thing that makes the community rally.
I love Blizzard games, dude. When they made Heroes of the Storm, I was hyped for it. Now it's like HOTS on Megalo, but
I still play HOTS almost every day.
Yeah, I like HOTS.
Really?
Still.
You still play HOTS? Wow.
I play HOTS every day.
I used to play
Ben was sick at
in
HOTS.
college. I played a
It's
lot
so
of
cool
HOTS.
to see all the WoW characters in one game. I love it.
Yeah,
My-
literally everybody in the chat HOTS on Megalo, but I swear
Yeah.
it's still
It's a fun game. It's a fun game.
My only fear with these types of things, and maybe it's like a negative take and whatever, but I always like don't like. I'd like to see them try some new stuff, but my first like thing in my head, it goes back to when they released the fucking fairy wing skin thing. Like cool and all that they added that, but like why? Like I don't like when they spread themselves like too thin. Like let's take that and put stuff like that in the game. Like let's earn that. Give us more stuff like that. I just feel at the end of the day, man, like stuff like focus on the actual core of the game first. It's like you're building on top of this foundation that feels so
That should be like a
shaky.
BG reward or something. They could have worked on a BG armor.
I think that for the first time ever, that is the first cosmetic for pay that I've been cool with because it's so ugly. It actually looks like I think that like this is the right
My
trend.
favorite transmog.
Dude. Okay, you have like a bunch of people working on stuff, and then it's like, wow, that one is so trash, we should throw it out. And then they go, no, we can sell it. Some whales are still going to buy it, and then we don't have to throw it out. And then they use the really good ones for in-game rewards. I think that that's the way to do it.
Oh,
Instead of
yeah.
just have absolute
that's
trash
what I
in the
said,
store.
too.
They'll still make their money, and then you get like the cool mounts. Like what was the enchanted
White dragon.
The Enchanted Fey Dragon?
yeah, like the
Yeah, that
Enchanted
one was
Fey
on
Dragon.
the store too,
That one should have been a quest,
but it was
right?
on the store.
But now you have the dog shit. Like, dude, that outfit is scary looking too. It looks like some weird like fairy,
Yeah.
The most recent one.
cult. Yeah, the new one.
I
that
really
came out
like it,
yesterday
yeah.
or 2 days ago.
Are you
I
really
hate-
a fan? Like you're all you like it? Or you
Yeah, well, I also like really dumped. So I have a weird thing. Actually, about 4 days ago, I was on like transmog. It's like Alcohol's Anonymous for transmog, where I just took off all my transmog and I was trying to just go back to my roots because I was spending too much gold and time on it. But when that came out, I started exclusively using it, so it really it got me back on the transmog game, and I get actually a lot of hate. It's quite funny
Wow,
because I've been
really?
playing the game since vanilla WoW, so I just have a 6-month subscription as my job to play. So I just got it
Of
when
course.
I logged on.
That's the thing,
But
I
people are like,
did
"Oh my god, I
too.
can't believe you'd support that. You were such a
No.
scumbag." And I'm like, dude, I kind of like dumb looking transmogs. This is my
That's
this
the
is my
sad thing
favorite.
about it, right? Is like I don't like the fact that it's on the store, and like I have 6-month recurring too. Like I've gotten to the point now because I'm like so adamantly against it, I don't even redeem them because I feel like people are gonna be like, I fucking hypocrite, But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
regardless, I don't really ever redeem them, but I get them too, and I think plenty of other people get them as well. I'd love to see more things like that added into the actual game. It's the same thing as like BG rewards, having different transmog sets. Like
putting
now,
that in the honor system.
well,
exactly.
now
Yeah,
you can
that's what I
actually
exactly
buy, like for somebody like me who cares about getting every item in the game, I'm actually using the honor that I get, and I'm buying all the different pieces of gear that you can get for like the corrupted aspirants gear with honor. Because I'm farming that out now, and that's actually kind of fun. It's not really that fun, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah. I mean, imagine that fairy transmog was for getting 2K rated in RPGs. Then I could get it and be proud, to support it.
Exactly.
And now, I like it, so I wear it, but I'm a little ashamed of where it came from. You know.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
I've been saying like maybe the hot take, but I would love to see just from RPGs. I don't know if I wanted. I want something for the casual people. I really want to do something for the casual player base. I would love to see a revamped some pieces of the High Warlord set. Maybe like a new High Warlord skin like Axe that's revamped into it. It's not 1 pixel like it is. I would love to see a high warlord like the sword for Alliance. That high warlord sword is so fucking sick, dude. If you could get that through BGs, like revamp the honor system, put that instead of the pet. 400 honor levels for a crab,
dude.
Give me a fucking badass sword.
I still think that the Grand Marshal's staff is one of the coolest weapons in the game.
It actually is.
It's so low res though, so nobody uses it. It's the same as like because that's one of the reasons why I did RBGs back in Kata, is if you got high enough RBG level, you'd be able to get the gear and you'd be able to use it for transmog. And now you can't do that anymore. And or you can still do it, but like I don't think people care about it anymore. Like if you
got it 4 expansions ago.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
that's the thing, man. Like people do still want it and care, but they got it already. Like,
well, if they made a new version of the old PvP gear,
I would love that,
dude. A new banana set. Oh my god,
love it.
Like, and they can do good jobs on those. Like, remember the Tumor Sargeras sets? Those were fucking awesome.
Dude,
like they can
to Rich's point. To Rich's point, he said like earlier that transmog is the reason why sets have gone down. I feel like Legion sets where there was transmog, those are the best fucking sets I've ever seen. Some of them are so sick. I will not go back and get BFA sets. Like they told us that they're going to be focusing on the thematic theme. I'm like Aquaman or a fucking tentacle monster. I'm not going to go back to go get those, but the Legion ones, I'm going to go back and get them. So
because they didn't do it. Like it was that's kind of my point though, is like I feel like they can get away with not doing it now because they just have such a strong foundation with really good looking transmog in the past that people are still farming. Because you look at this raid tier, this expansion, and what they said was you're going to have just as many sets as you've ever had, but the sets now, like Stoopzz was saying, are going to be way more themed. So instead of being this is the Warlock set, this is going to be the very Lovecraft inspired set that you're going to be getting from this zone, and this is going to be like the Drustvar set, and then this raid's going to have multiple sets that you actually try to get. Like that was a straight up lie, and it's really sad.
It didn't happen, and it happened for like the first tier if you counted in the Island Expedition sets. But the fact is that after that, you only had one set of gear. And even if you count the Warfront sets as well, like every single tier in Legion, you got the Aspirants gear, you got the Gladiators gear, you got the Elite gear, you got the multiple difficulties of all of the different tier set gear. So you had not only the Warrior gear, but you had the offset DK gear, you had the offset Paladin gear, and you had all of these sets that would come into the game every single patch. And I do think transmog matters a lot. It's the same reason why I said, like back in Cataclysm I mentioned earlier, that's why I spent all of my honor points to buy all the new gear, because I wanted to look cool. And that's what it's about. I think that's like one of the big things. Like back in Burning Crusade, if you saw somebody with like season 3 or season 4 shoulders, that was awesome in itself.
That's how you found partners. You chill in Duratar, you would just pretend to be AFK, and people would walk past you with your fucking 2K shoulders, dude, in BC, and like, I remember when I got those fucking things, dude. I remember like I was on Blades Edge Arena, I was playing SP Rogue and 2s, and I beat this team that had them, and I remember I ran downstairs to my mom, and there was like a family gathering, and I was freaking the fuck out that I got 2K to get my shoulders. It was like, it meant something, you know, you earned it, you know, you earned something. And I feel like more earned rewards, not like these little freebies that you just get through like I hate participation trophies in WoW, man. Like that's the shit you remember when you earn stuff.
Have you guys I bring this up all the time, and I know I've literally talked to Venruki about this in real life, and this is a slight tangent really quick. This is the first time I've ever, like, this is the exact moment that I officially felt bummed that BlizzCon isn't happening, because I just realized like we can't do this in real life, and I'm having a lot of fun. I think Asmon and I are going to try to figure out like a call maybe over the next couple of days to do like a pseudo BlizzCon thing that we'll stream. I'll tell you guys about it a little bit later. Yeah, I'm trying to green screen the Hilton Bar, dude. I'm gonna be wearing my furry suit, just going to town. So if you guys want to have a drink with me, let me know. But I've talked to Ven about this a few times in real life, like with PoE. One of the things that they do now, obviously, it's a different financial structure because it's not a monthly sub. You're not paying for game copies. The way that they actually make their money is you spend money on these microtransactions that change how your different abilities look. And man, they add incredibly cool looking variants to pretty much every spell. Like every spell has like kind of like a cosmic stardust look to it, like a black hole, shit like that. And it's really cool to see the different things that you can come up with. And I feel like if these rewards were sprinkled all over the game, and you
I
could
would
actually make it.
love
Oh yeah.
that.
Imagine if you could make all
I
your
love
abilities
that.
look different.
I love that. Like, imagine.
Well, they actually had some
could
of
be a
that, right?
battleground
Like, it
reward,
exists in the
too.
game a little bit.
Yeah, there was like glyphs, but
Demon. Wasn't
imagine
there
like
demon
if we
fire or
had
something like that
what was it?
for warlocks, like demon fire or green fire for warlocks.
Exactly
Yeah.
like that.
Dinesh film or whatever it was called.
Yeah, like you can buy glyphs, but dude, you have like new age. I have like WoW brain. Like you have you must be playing a lot of other games. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
Rich, I didn't
I don't
realize
see
that
like
existed.
I like that though. Your perspective is like,
Yeah, his is,
fuck,
like,
that would
wide.
be sick too. You know, I would love to see some of that stuff. Like maybe spell animation changes. We get them with glyphs, but maybe you earn them, right? Like you see a mage and he's casting a weird fucking frostbolt animation that looks sick. You're like, wow, like, and he earned it. Not like he bought it for gold, like something that he earned, and you could recognize maybe his skill level or his dedication or yeah, man.
Well, like imagine if like you did all like mythic plus 20s and for every single season, and it would change like the type of ability that you'd have. Like instead of a frostbolt, it would shoot like a shadow volley, a bolt, kind of like Bonswambi
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah,
That would be
exactly.
And
sick.
or like
that
have
was
something
sick.
for like
I love
gladiators above like 2700 or something like that.
That's so
that,
cool.
that was the original.
Yeah.
One of the original times I started talking about it with Asmon was
Yeah.
saying, "Shouldn't we do seasonal rewards?" Like,
Yeah,
and
I think we
have
started talking about that in
seasonal
season 2. That's why it came to my mind.
Yep. That was exactly when we started to talk about it. And I remember there was one night when, because I mentioned it on Allcraft and started talking about it. And Asmon and I sat in Discord all night just going, you know what else would be sick? You know what else would be sick? Just off stream,
Yeah.
just talking about all these things that
Yeah.
we want to see in the game. And, make each season feel new. I remember all of the way back in Wrath of the Lich King. And these sets sucked too. And then they decided to make an entire expansion based around these sets. But during Trial of Crusader, when it was all the way back when I used to use MMO Champion all the time. When I saw the blue posts on MMO Champion for those sets, I was sitting next to my friend Ben. I actually remember I was at Ben's place and I was like, dude, I gotta go. I literally left his house. I stopped hanging out with him because I was like, I need to catch up to make sure that I get this set and make my character look this way. And I feel like if you had cosmetics each season that were attached to your spells themselves based off of the season, players would want to come back because they wouldn't want to miss it. And
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Don't make it seasonal. I'm all about seasonal stuff. To like every season, you have so much shit to look forward to. Part of the reason that the cosmetic incentives are lame, just like we talked about earlier, is that you already got them 4 expansions ago. If you refresh that shit, it'd be sick. But again, it's like, let's stop focusing on the extra shit and incentivize the bread and butter of the game. The stuff that people enjoy, pack those with the incentives. Don't add them to like war fronts or islands. Like all the island rewards could have sprinkled that throughout the rest of the game. No one's like, dude, I fucking can't wait to get home to play islands. Nobody does that. It's just not
people are
reality.
sorry to jump in. I think we should talk about this. A lot of people are saying FOMO sucks. You don't need to make it so you can never get the rewards again. I think that you can have you can have an
Mythic
alternate
mounts is the best way. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, I'm about that.
I think that there are a lot of ways that you can go back and like.
I really love the animation changes you guys talked about. Like, imagine if you got Gladiator, your execute as a warrior becomes something
like
more
Darius
badass.
Dunk from League, where you actually
like
jump in the air and bang them. Yeah,
or even like you cut him in half. I don't know. You know how you have those little toys you could like cut people? What if like it cuts them in half?
Oh, if you get a killing blow with execute, it turns them in like the little pile of meat.
Oh,
yeah, something like that. That would be so
What
sick.
if you killed them, it turned them into like the cooked turkey? Oh man, that would be
Anything
good.
like that? That would be so cool.
And here's the thing: you instantly Stoopzz references another game that already does things like this. When you actually pay attention to the things that work across games, these are the things that people enjoy. Like people actually enjoy.
Wait, why is
customizing.
Blizzard not doing this?
I don't know.
Like, when's the last time we got a new dance emote or something like?
Yeah, I know. No new emotes.
Remember in Wrath of the Lich King, there was a trailer saying new dance moves.
The
and it was
Dance
like,
Studio.
I was hyped for that. Yeah, Dance Studio.
That's the only thing that has ever been on an actual physical copy box of World of Warcraft or any Blizzard game, to my knowledge, that has never actually been implemented into the game. So that actually is like one of the biggest mistakes I guess that they've ever made, right? In a certain way. which they're very hesitant of now.
Yeah.
But yeah, very.
It's because
very
we
important.
play. It's because we play the game every day. Like we're like them when they started making WoW, right? They were EverQuest players. They had all these
Yeah,
ideas of how the game
maybe.
could be better, and we were, they were coming up and like, all right, we're gonna try to make our own game. So we now have all of these ideas, and then it feels like no disrespect, but it does feel like they're the EverQuest team, right? And we're like thinking of all this stuff of how the game could be much better. And I think it comes from a good place though. Like we all have good intentions when we're talking about this stuff. We just care about the game. As some of us have been playing the game as long as they've been on the working at Blizzard, maybe longer, right? Like we've been around for a long
Yeah,
time.
we've got seniority. Listen to us, devs.
We're tenured.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to apply that. But,
Yeah, I know. It's just it's funny to think about it in that context, though. Absolutely. I mean, I think that really what the goal of this episode was, right, and is to just kind of bring people together and talk about where we want to see the game going, and really kind of have more of a productive and constructive conversation about things that we'd like to see change, and things that we enjoyed about the game in the past, and things that could be better, and also, I mean, in some cases with the PvP scaling, things that we enjoy about the game right now. And so I think Shadowlands has a lot of potential to be great for PvPers. Like going into it, looking at it just from like a layman's perspective, outside of like the Covenant problems, I think that it could be a lot better than probably Legion or BFA. It has the potential to be there. Absolutely.
Yeah. If I could add one thing, if anyone out there is listening, please, can we just get more response to feedback? Please don't let us go 9 months without hearing any changes or not responding to us. Like, it's not whatever is preventing you guys from talking to the community more. Please, like, consider looking at that, and let's get some more feedback. Let's talk. Like, let's hear why we're not getting these changes. Explain your reasoning behind stuff. And maybe pack
That would
some
be
more
great.
incentives.
Yeah,
Just
I would
want to
love
hear.
that.
Just
I
want
would
to
love
hear. Just monthly. We used to have Halinka. Where's Halinka
Yeah.
at?
Also,
PvP
I feel
Also, we have to admit the community kind of scared
They went
any
crazy.
potential
Yeah, that's
away,
true.
right?
Yeah, that was
feel
too
like
much.
That's our bad. Community's bad. Right?
I feel like
we got to take that out.
we're gonna get from now on, probably from anybody that's giving out PvP, responding to PvP feedback, it's not gonna be whoever, it's gonna just be Blizzard Entertainment.
Yeah, unfortunately.
hiding their identity.
Yeah, probably a good thing.
I mean,
Yeah, probably a
after
good
the
thing.
After the Halinka days, though, there were some successful renditions of it, and I still think it is something that they try to do, right? Because they had Uncle Jeff Kaplan, right? I think people love Jeff.
Yeah, people love Jeff.
Yeah, all 6 people who
I
still
think
play
it's the
Overwatch
matter of how
love
they
Jeff.
represent it and how they feature.
I was just gonna-
It's like the
Yeah, go
Overwatch
ahead.
community, they love Jeff. He doesn't get trashed on. I don't know.
Oh, I think one thing that I would like to see is a little bit more faith in the community as a whole, because I think sometimes like there's changes. Like sometimes people will think like, oh, this is a really obvious change. Why can't they just do this? Like this thing is broken. Why don't they fix it? And I feel like if they're a little bit more transparent with like, hey, we realize like this is a problem in PvP. One of the things we're struggling with is, it's really important for, a rogue to function in raids. And we're not sure how we can really deal with that just yet. Like even little things like that would make the community a lot more understanding. I would think anyways. I feel like a lot of people, they get especially frustrated when they're just kind of left in the dark. And like you said, for such a long time, it feels like they're not being heard. And I think that's even more frustrating than like them just like taking a while to fix something and at least letting you know like, hey, this is an issue.
Right.
We're looking at it, but these are the reasons why it's hard to make that change.
Yeah, I think
Right.
that's about right.
I do want to bring up one other downside to talk, like having one figure. Just to throw it out there, I know we're going backwards a little bit with it, but remember when Ben Brode left Hearthstone?
That was sad.
I feel like that hurt the game a lot, though. Like I actually feel like it hurt the game. So like being completely tied to one person makes it seem like just like this weird thing. Like when Ben Brode left Hearthstone, I was like, I don't think I'm really gonna play that much anymore, because it felt like I don't know. It's like
It was
doesn't have to be a-
it's like your
doesn't have to
dad
be a-
walking out.
It
on
was
you. I don't know.
demoralizing. Okay, I will definitely say that. I don't know about the game, but it felt demoralizing from an outsider's perspective.
It doesn't have to be a figure. It could be a blue post. I mean,
Yeah.
we used to get Q&As, and I just can't. I honestly, man, can't get behind the idea that they can't come together once every 2 months for 1 hour, because you get the Q&As, it answers questions about pet battles and just like all this random stuff. I feel like dude, 1 hour in front of a webcam, just saying, hey, this is why we're not. I'm down to get behind their decisions, even if I don't agree, if they at least come out and say, like, this is why we're doing it. All right, that's why you're doing it. Cool. At least I know. You know, at least that's what you want to do. I'm behind you on it. Right? Like,
you can at least see where they're coming from. And like, I have actually really appreciated the amount of feedback and everything they've given us with covenants and like responses they've given us with that. Even though I disagree with a lot of it, I'm glad to at least have the conversation, and I appreciate that.
Me too.
Well, anyway, guys, we've had a lot of questions. The episode has gone way longer than it usually does. So I want to say thank you all so much for being part of this. I think that we talked about a lot of really important things, and I hope that I can speak for all of us when I hope that Shadowlands is as good as possible for PvP. Like, I want it to get back to feeling like the game, half of the game is PvP.
Yeah, thank you for having us on. I mean, I really appreciate it. I know I'm not the biggest guest or whatever, but I definitely care about this game a lot. So thank you so much. It was nice.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Dude, it's one of those things too where, you know, we don't do episodes like this very often where we have like a giant group like this on, and it always just feels so nice. Like you really just feel like you're hanging out with a group of friends, and I really can't thank you guys enough. Like I had a blast.
I loved it because a lot of us have like the same idea as longtime WoW players too. It's really cool to see.
Well, I think it's just really important when you have something like this. You have, because I know some people in my stream, they're like, well, you know, they felt like maybe people weren't like, you know, not everyone's a rank 1 player, so how can you have this conversation? But I think that's complete nonsense, because when you look at something like PvP can be fun for the worst player in the entire game, and it can be fun for the best player in the entire game. And I think when you're sitting here and you have like a roundtable discussion like this, and people are different skill levels and they like doing different things. Some people like playing BG, some people play Arena. But I think at the end of it all, we can kind of get behind the same ideas and like the fundamentals of what make PvP fun and WoW.
I think that's whenever you really have things happen. Whenever you have people that are like rank 1 gladiators agreeing with people that just do BGs for fun.
Exactly. Yep. I do want to say, I know Tyrion isn't here today. So if one of the mods could kind of one by one link everybody's socials, so anybody who maybe met somebody new today could actually follow them and actually check out all their stuff. So everybody check out Savix, check out Stoopzz, and check out Venruki if you guys haven't already. But yeah, I know Tyrion isn't here today, so a different mod would have to do that if possible. I do want to give a really big shout out as well to Party for making this episode possible. Guys, be sure to check out Party as well. You can do !Party to actually check out that link. Now, Asmon, we can like kind of talk, like we can hint at what we're doing next week if you want to, but we don't have to. You can do it later if you want. It's up to you.
What are we doing next week?
Next week's the interesting episode. The very different episode.
Yeah, we'll have a very it'll definitely be a change of pace next week. It will be a very big change of pace.
Okay, so without saying too much, everybody's always asking, you know, if we could have some WoW devs on the podcast. I don't think we're ever gonna. I don't think we're ever gonna. Come on, devs. We got devs from a different game.
Dude, I got debated so hard. I was like, dude, here we go.
I was excited. Why did you do that?
No, it's actually really cool though. We got devs on from a completely different game, and like I actually don't think anybody's guessing the game right now, but I think when you guys actually see what game it is, you're gonna be pretty excited. And on top of that, we're going to actually have the devs on the episode of Allcraft, and we're also going to, after the episode of Allcraft, be playing that game as well. Asmon and I are actually going to be in the same place.
Wow,
which is,
This is going to be good, dude. It's going to be real good. So
I saw one person guess it.
Anyway, guys, thank you very much for coming on and talking about this. We have a very exciting episode planned for next week, but this week has been amazing. So thank you guys all so much. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to stick around and just hang out, I'm going to go ahead and Rich and I are going to do the after show as usual. So viewers, if you guys want to just go ahead and wait around, I'll host into the show, and we'll go ahead and we'll get that started and do some of the viewer questions and all that kind of stuff very, very soon. But thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you guys very much. I'm going to go ahead and get everything set up and sort it out. So I will talk to you guys later.
All right. Talk to you guys.
All right. Peace.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.